Welcome back to Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We've got our third and final March Madness bracket special episode. And this time we're going to be talking through the best draft picks at every draft slot in the first round since the year 2000. So I'll look back on the best 25 plus years of first rounders, the best player from every slot, every selection, 1 through to 32. It's been some good chatting, filtering the list down, and we're pitting them all against each other, and we'll work out who is the last man standing. Good to be back. I was away last week on IR, but I am fit to return. I'm of course joined by Byron and Joe. Gentlemen, feels like it's been weeks. How are you both getting on?
Fantastic, yeah. We had a really fun show last week that you missed, unfortunately, with Derek Like Sports, doing the jersey bracket, which I thought was really fun. Obviously enjoyed our prior bracket, the LLs, the NFL best Super Bowl winners, and really looking forward to this one as well. March Madness has been really fun this year. I haven't watched a minute of the basketball, but doing our content's been fun anyway.
You've missed out for sure.
I did see 1 second actually when Duke lost, which killed all my brackets, but it was a fun moment.
It was a great moment, yeah. The amazing UConn comeback, and we've got the Final Four this week. UConn, Illinois, Michigan, and Arizona. So that should make for a fun weekend and 3 great games, and we'll see who ends up as the national champion. But we've got our own champion to crown. Joe, how are you getting on?
Yeah, doing all good here. Obviously, we have to do a lot more work pre this draft, where we had to do basically a pre-screen of which player we want to choose, and there's quite a few where we all chose different ones, and trying to figure all that kind of stuff out was interesting. So there's even people in this draft where we're not happy that they're in the draft. They're not happy in the draft. So you might hear some disparaging talk from, especially in the first round when we bring players up who were put in over other players. So it was fun. It was fun to see all the different draft picks, and that some of them you're like, if someone just comes out and has like a great career, they're going to be the best player in that draft pick since the noughties, because some of them were not the greatest to choose from.
Yeah, so just in case you missed the concept at the start, I think I did a poor job explaining it. We've looked back from the year 2000 to 2025 NFL draft, the best player at each slot. So we've got what we've deemed the best player at number 1, the best player at number 2, the best player at number 3, 4, so on, all the way through to 32, which means, of course, lots of your favorites are probably missed out because we could only pick 32 players. And yes, some draft positions have produced more great players than others. I think in doing this exercise, we've found that there's not greats at every single position 1 to 32. But I think we had a general consensus for 80% of the positions, 80% of the slots, and then a bit of disagreement, a bit of voting, and Byron sorts some third-party votes as well, just to help us split some ties. So that's how we're going to do it. They're seeded 1 to 32, 1 plays 32, 2 plays 31, etc. And yeah, we're going to run it like a March Madness bracket. So yeah, you've got to win 4 games, I guess, 5 games, 4, 5, I don't know, right, to get through, and then we'll see who's left standing. So shall we kick it off with our first matchup?
Let's do it.
And that might also help anybody listening just work out what we're doing. So we have got the best number 1 pick, we're saying, over the last 25 years. Myles Garrett, taken by the Cleveland Browns out of Texas A&M in the 2017 draft, versus pick 32, Drew Brees. Not first rounder, because there weren't 32 teams at the time when Drew Brees was selected, but Drew Brees taken in the second round, but with pick number 32, by the Los Angeles Chargers. I did not have the heart to put him in a Chargers shirt for the graphic, but taken by the Chargers out of Purdue in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brees 2001. Cool. So honorable mentions first of all. So the ones that missed out. So the other number 1s we considered: Eli Manning, Matt Stafford, Andrew Luck. I think it's probably right that we've got Garrett then as the 1.
Yeah, I think so. I think it might have been a unanimous vote. Andrew Luck, maybe, if he'd played an entire career, but he didn't ultimately. So yeah, that's kind of... Myles Garrett is special.
And we'll talk about that in a second. And then the honourable mentions for pick 32, Logan Mankins, Ryan Ranjik, also another Saint, and Lamar Jackson. Was it tough to separate Lamar and Drew Brees?
Yes, for me.
I'll
I
take
picked
New
Lamar.
York. Mhm.
I picked Lamar, so yeah, very tough for me. Judging on what they've done in the league to the point in their career, I think Lamar was better than Drew Brees. So Drew Brees, 0 MVPs, I believe. Lamar twice and once unanimous. So yeah, I would have went Lamar Jackson. So clearly a tough one for me.
Well, it was Joe who threw kind of the spanner in because I didn't even add him to the list because
Not a first-round pick.
That's not a first-round pick, yeah. But anyway, we've got Garrett versus Breeze. So yeah, Miles. I mean, this is two very, very different matchups. Two people who possibly define different styles of players at their position. Miles Garrett. I mean, let's just rattle this off then. So Garrett, again, still going. Just set the record for NFL record for sacks in a single season with 23. Also holds a record for most consecutive seasons with 12 or more sacks with 6. 2-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year, 5-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler, and many more awards to come, you'd think, for Myles Garrett. Yeah, quick word on Garrett. I think certainly over the past, 8-9 years, probably the most consistent pass rusher defensive force we've seen in the NFL.
Yeah, every year he's played at least 14 games. He's made the Pro Bowl. Just truly dominant. Not maybe one of one. I think there's maybe another pass rusher I would put along maybe on his level, but I don't think there's many. And has been, just incredible since he entered the league. So very worthy of his spot here.
I was looking at. I tried to look at the lads, that we've selected there, kind of draft profiles as well, just to kind of look at kind of what they, not what the expectation was, but kind of what the prediction was in terms of maybe like what they were, what they were potentially going to be like, and what traits and things like that were coming out, and it's just all the same. The stuff from Myles Garrett 9 years ago is the same as kind of what we see on every Sunday in the NFL. Just that freak athlete, the motor, the explosiveness, all that translated from Texas A&M to the Cleveland Browns so far. Quick question I want to ask about this because we're going to get through this, I think, as we go. Does kind of Garrett's lack of kind of team success hurt him at all? Does that have any bearing on maybe how far he can go in this style of tournament?
I don't think for me so much, truthfully. I think, sometimes we do, not so much we, but like the general media talks about like quarterback wins. I don't think it's really fair to pin that on like pass rushers or like defensive linemen themselves. Like generally, like the quarterback drives your ship, and that's why they get more valued in things like this as well, to be fair. Like when I had tiebreakers to break, I would often go with the quarterback because they are the more valuable position. So for that reason, no, I wouldn't pin Cleveland's lack of success on Myles Garrett. I don't know. It's kind of like, what more could he do? I don't think there's much.
Excellent. Cool. Right. Some quick word on Drew Brees then, because we can't have 10 minutes on each matchup because this will be the longest episode we've ever done. Drew Brees was drafted out of Purdue. So Super Bowl 44, that's right. 44 champion. It's the Saints beat the Colts. Super Bowl MVP of that Super Bowl. 2-time NFL Offensive Player of the Year. NFL Comeback Player of the Year. First team All-Pro. Only one All-Pro for Drew Brees, but I guess it's tough when Brady, Manning, etc. 4-time second team All-Pro. 13 Pro Bowls. 7 times the NFL passing yard leader. 4 times the NFL passing touchdown leader. Twice the NFL passing rating leader. I'll stop saying NFL. 6-time completion percentage leader. He's in the New Orleans Saints Hall of Fame, as he should be, in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, class of 2026. I think that's right. I think he's in this class. Just the success he had for a smaller guy, that was the thing when he was in the draft. Was he going to be able to have the success at the NFL level being a smaller guy? Well, he holds a fair few NFL records as well. Highest completion percentage in a season, most passing touchdowns in a game, most consecutive games with a touchdown pass, and most career 5,000-yard seasons. I think it's safe to say Brees definitely allayed any fears about him being undersized and they were the big thing was always accurate short, medium, or intermediate distance. Doesn't necessarily have the arm strength to throw the deep ball, which I think really is nonsense from what you've sort of seen and what he achieved. Surpassed over 80,000 passing yards, worked in particular offense that did work to his strengths with Sean Payton and the Saints when he made the move from San Diego. But yeah, what do you think? Garrett versus Breeze then, gents? I've said enough about Breeze.
Yeah, Breeze second all-time passing yardage. I'm not sure if you actually specifically mentioned that in itself, just a number. It is a really tough one. Entire body of work, so I am going to go Drew Brees. Again, just giving that quarterback nudge. I'm not sure, again, Myles Garrett could have done much more other than play quarterback, maybe. It's no slight on Myles Garrett, but Drew Brees, like you say, second all-time passing yardage. Never won the MVP, which is kind of my lean on Lamar Jackson there, but he did win a Super Bowl. And it's kind of those things that kind of like, I'm probably mentioning it for another player in another category later. He's like, you kind of rebirthed the Saints, winning that Super Bowl ultimately, but coming out of Katrina, like they needed a hero. And they really got one in Drew Brees, who, it was meant to be going to Miami and obviously the shoulder injury, et cetera, ended up in New Orleans, which I don't think was his first choice, but what a story it was for him and New Orleans as it turned out. So yeah, I would go Breeze, but I don't think it's an easy decision.
Joe?
I think I'm going to lean Myles Garrett. I just think in terms of definition of that position, like you said, it's hard to compare QBs and different positions, but what I'm trying to focus on is like, was he the mainstay, top one, top two of that position throughout his career? And I think Myles Garrett's been that like non-stop. He's got 5 all first team all pros. So the last 5 years, and the time he missed out was 2022 when it was in second team all pro. And I think if he continues, like I think the most by a defensive player is 8. There's a few defensive had 8 first team all pros. So I think he could reach that. I think just having them all pros being the best at his position, obviously not having the Super Bowl, but you are with the Cleveland Browns. So the fact he's been able to do that on such a bad team, where how bad the offense is, that the opposition are not just going to sit back and throw it up most games. It's usually going to be ground and pound because they've got a lead on this Browns team. So having that kind of player and that, the best defensive player, I would say, right now, I'm going to go Garrett just because I think Breeze is certainly like in the top 3 for quite a few years. But was he like the definition of that's the best quarterback in the league? I don't think so, but I think Garrett has been able to do that in that position. So I'm going to go Garrett. And he's also put the record, obviously, most sacks in a single season, so he has that record.
It'd be nice if he did it in 16 games, though, wouldn't it? I see it went down to the last one. This is why have you put me in this position?
You put yourself in this position?
This feels unfair as the host. This is tough. Oh, on the back, just because I'm about to make him like Breeze and although drafted by the Chargers, obviously synonymous with the Saints. The feedback on the Saints being eliminated in the second round of the Jersey draft, I got a lot of feedback on that guy. So you did me dirty there as well. I'm gonna have to go Garrett. It's tough. It is tough. It's a close run thing between 1 and 32, but I'm going to take Myles Garrett. Again, probably similar to sort of Joe's. Both compelling arguments. Love Drew Brees. Obviously, phenomenally consistent. Player synonymous with a city and a franchise. But I think just the domination of a position and redefining of a position potentially from Myles Garrett. I'm going to take Myles Garrett and put him through to our Sweet 16. Unlucky Drew. Better luck next time. I'm sure this will be the biggest regret of his, long and distinguished career, being eliminated in the first round of our best of the best bracket. Right, let's move on. We've got our 16-17 matchup. So we've got Troy Polamalu, drafted by the Steelers in the 2003 draft at number 16 out of USC, against Steve Hutchinson, lineman, guard, I guess, drafted by the Seahawks. Got it right in the end. Seahawks in the 01 draft out of Michigan. Byron, where do you want to start? Polamalu or Hutchinson? Where do you want to start here?
I think Polamalu is an easier talk, to be fair. Kind of a walking highlight reel on defense. The line of scrimmage jumps, the interceptions, 2-time Super Bowl champion, 8-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro. And he just stood out on the field. We had that infamous rivalry throughout the, noughties into the 2010s of the best safety in the AFC North, AFC, NFL entirely. Troy Polamalu and Ed Reed. Whichever one you picked, there was a really good second place, though. I think two players who kind of summarize that era of football on defense, certainly. And again, you got to see them play each other twice a year. I know they didn't match up that directly across each other, but they were on the field between the two of them 100% of the time. So it was really fun. Not that their quarterbacks would probably agree. Steve Hutchinson, I think one of the things that's going to, I'm not sure how many O-linemen we have in this bracket. Truthfully, it's going to ding them because it's hard to stand out on a film watching basis, on a highlight basis. You do see it every now and then. Steve Hutchinson, I think it's very fair to say, is an exemplary O-lineman, played left guard for the Seahawks for, 12 years, I think it was, 11 years. Never really missed time. 7-time Pro Bowler, all not his team, 5 times All-Pro, Hall of Famer. But, sorry, I'm saying he played for Seahawks 12 years. I'm saying he played in the NFL 12 years after being drafted by the Seahawks. Yeah, I realised as I've said it. But I just think for these kind of things, it's just, and I guess I'm going to lead straight in with my vote here. Because I don't have much to say about Steve Hutchinson's career other than he was obviously great, but I got to see Troy Polamalu jump off the screen every week. Steve Hutchinson, I know, was great because Sean Alexander was great behind him and Matt Hasselbeck was great behind him. And the Seahawks had some great years with him. But it's just an unfairness of my lack of ability to watch offensive line film from the mid-noughties, or lack of willingness to, truthfully, as well. Whereas Troy Polamalu, you could be watching your first football game and you'd know that Troy Polamalu is special. Steve Hutchinson, I think you'd need to really look and say, like, oh my, that guy is really moving the line. He's really consistent. And he's in a Hall of Fame, so, like, I'm certainly not disparaging it. I'm more disparaging myself. But for me, it's a pretty easy decision because, yeah, Troy Polamalu jumped off the screen and was clearly elite.
Yeah, I think in putting this together, this is, I think, the closest matchup in terms of players. Obviously, different position, but really so. Obviously, both members of the NFL 2000s All-Decade team, both entered the Hall of Fame in the same class. They were both the class of 2020. Both are in their kind of teams, all-time teams. So I think Polamalu's in the Steelers all-time team and the Steelers Hall of Fame. Hutchinson's in the 50 greatest Vikings and the Seahawks top 50 players across obviously the years. He spent multiple first-team All-Pros, 5 for Hutchinson, you mentioned, and 4 for Polamalu. So many Pro Bowls between them, things like that. I'm going to go Hutchinson. I'm going to let Joe make this decision. So I'm going to go Steve Hutchinson. I think just a complete, and it's tough because Polamalu, obviously awesome, incredible, everything around his play, the highlight plays. The hair deserves a shout. Like, that's possibly the greatest hair in NFL history. Flying about, perfect position as a safety to have that kind of flowing, curly hair. But Hutchinson was just a complete model of consistency, I think. Just that high level that he played at. Sort of no frills about him, but just consistent part of some pretty good offensive lines, and he translated basically everything what he was in college and just translated it to the NFL. So I'm going to take Steve Hutchinson, which leaves Joe to make the decision and split the tie on Hutchinson and Polamalu.
Yeah, it's funny just you talk about that. That's next year's bracket then, best hairstyles of NFL history. Madness. So Troy will definitely be there. I'm going to leave with Byron. I'm going to go Troy as well. In terms of all pros, they're very similar. I think Steve Hutchinson has one more in terms of first and second. But I think it's just being a safety and winning the Defensive Player of the Year. And this happened 3 times since the noughties, but it's just so hard in terms of like standing out compared to the sack masters, and to do that and be part of that Steelers team, which was very defense heavy, and him being like the central part. I know there's a few of us, but he felt like he was the main guy with the highlights, and just all around that, him just standing out that way. So I'm going to go Troy Polamalu, but I think it's very close, just because of, like you said, it's very, when you look at all the stats, all the awards and all that kind of stuff, it is super close, but he's just getting that defensive player of the year. I know obviously a guard is never going to win. Obviously offensive player of the year. I know there was just coming, so that's a bit harsh, but I just I'm going to go Troy just for that.
Cool. Troy Polamalu into our Sweet 16. The theme of Hall of Famers and Defensive Players of the Year continue in our next matchup, and this may actually just be equally as hard. So it is Luke. This is brutal. This is Luke Keithley, the 9th pick, so our best of the 9 picks. I keep forgetting to mention, obviously, the ones who missed out as well. So I think this may have been the toughest one to pick in terms of the players that were taken in this slot. So there's Luke Keithley from the 2012 draft. There's Pat Surtain from the 21 draft for the Broncos. Tyron Smith from the 2011 draft for the Dallas Cowboys. And Brian Urlacher, the Bears 2000s. I think that was probably the most difficult one in terms of just how stacked that position was with just top tier elite players. 3 defensive player of the years, I think, in that. In Surtain, Keithley, and Urlacher. I could be wrong, but we settled on Keithley between me and Joe. Byron wanted Urlacher, but Luke Keithley it is. Going up against the 24th pick, which in this case is Ed Reed from the 2002 draft. Another stacked position. Honorable mentions: Dallas Clark, Steven Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, CJ2K, Des Bryant, Cam Jordan, and Tyler Smith. So 24, a pretty stacked slot as well. But Ed Reed against Luke Keithley, again, I think this one's so hard to split. 2 former NFL Defensive Players of the Year. 2 Hall of Famers, Keithley going in the class of 2026. Where do you start with these 2?
Well, I mean, I just mentioned Ed Reed in relation to Troy Polamalu. I didn't actually realize this was the next coming match, but I'm not that far advanced on my prep. But again, Ed Reed, to me, kind of summed up an era of defensive play, that safety position. There's those infamous clips of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick talking like, the one thing you need to do is you need to know Ed Reed. He's on the field at all times. It's a level of respect that, and you've heard Bill Belichick talk about Ed Reed otherwise as well. Like, I don't think there is much more level of respect given to any player in the NFL than the way Bill Belichick talks about Ed Reed. One of, for what Bill Belichick is as a coach and everything else, like one of the great historians of the league as well. I'd love to read his book of NFL stories rather than his book of how to manage. Truthfully, I think that's going to be a bit too cheesy. And Luke Kuechly played 8 years in the NFL, 7-time All-Pro. 7-time Pro Bowl, 5-time All-Pro. Immediate difference maker at the position. Although actually it wasn't my vote here. I went for Brian Urlacher just for longevity and also incredible achievements. Like you say, a very tough draft slot to pick for this one, as was the Ed Reed one, because some Hall of Famers missed out there as well. My vote goes to Ed Reed. Longevity tied with excellence. Ed Reed probably had more down years than Luke Kuechly did, but he also had probably about the same amount of up years. So, and again, just super iconic. 9 Pro Bowl seasons, 5 All-Pro seasons, team of the decade. Yeah, it's hard to not pick Luke Kuechly because he was so good, but you're going up against someone who was equally good and did it for longer. So that's where I'm kind of breaking my tie here. So Ed Reed at pick 24. Goodness gracious, that is what a value.
Yeah, again, just so like again, Ed Reeves with the part of the 2000s All-Decade team, Keithley part of the 2010s All-Decade team, Ed Reed part of the 100th anniversary All-Time team. But again, mentioned both Defensive Player of the Years, multiple first year, 5-team All-Pros each. This is a brutal split, Joe, and also we should still be watching Luke Kuechly on a Sunday. He's only 34. Had to retire at 28. I trust it. And such a shame because, just unbelievably good and just kind of had that where that Panthers had that little bit of run again of a bit of success. kind of in the mid 2010s, and he was, along with Cam Newton, of course, was kind of the spearhead of it. Those defenses under Ron Rivera was so good. And part of that was how good Keithley was. But yeah, this is tough. Joe, I'll let you cast the second vote because I'm torn.
Yeah, I think what Barry mentioned about the 5-team All-Pro for Keithley. He also had 2 second-team All-Pros, so 7 out of his 8 years he was at least in one of the All-Pro teams. And just when they describe him, it's about his IQ, that he might be the smartest linebacker there has been, just because he just knew what was happening. He could call out plays, and he was just that insanely. He's like, and his career, someone like Patrick Willis is like very similar, where they may have played for a short time, but they were just the best at that position. So do you take the longevity, or do you just take the best? But I think Ed Reed has both. So I'm going to go Ed Reed, and I think just a crazy stat, just how many interceptions he got. Like, safeties are supposed to be like, you don't really see safeties, and they're supposed to like just help out. But he got 64 interceptions during his career and 13 defensive touchdowns. There's plenty of wide receivers that have not even got anywhere close to that. So the fact he's got 13 touchdowns as a safety and how much he touched the ball being on defense is just ridiculous. He forced fumbled 11 times, recovered it 13 times. So I just think just having that stat, because I think they're both similar in terms of like how good they were for their period. But I just think Ed Reed has that. It just feels like there's no one better than him at the safety position. It feels like there could be arguments in the linebacker role where we talked about Keithley, and there's always the argument with Keithley like who we talked about, and there's plenty of other linebackers, but it feels like when you talk about safety, number one is like Ed Reed's the best safety ever. So I'm going to go Ed Reed.
Cool. Yeah, I'd probably been unanimous. I'd go Ed Reed as well. I'll do Ed Reed. But so tough because again, Keith was such a good player, so much fun. And that point on Ed Reed, he is tied for season leading interceptions in the NFL. 3 separate seasons he was the leader in interceptions: 04, 08, and 010, tied with Everson Walls from the 80s. So. And again, as a safety, wild. Cool, right, Reed marches on to our Sweet 16. Cool, right, next up, we've got our number 8, another Panther. Not anymore, but another Panther at the time of being drafted, Christian McCaffrey. So again, kind of in that 8 slot, a little bit different, maybe not quite a strong competition. Plaxico Burress. I feel like I just remember Plaxico more for shooting himself than catching a Super Bowl winning touchdown at this point. D'Angelo Hall, JC Horn, another Panther, and B. John Robinson were our other shouts for the 8 slot. Not as strong. I think CMC, the overwhelming right choice. Going up against the 25 pick, or the pick from the 25th slot, Donta Hightower of the Patriots. Again, kind of not particularly great competition. Santonio Holmes, Vonta Davis, and Tyler Linderbaum were the other ones out there. Pick 25, but we went in with the Patriots. Another linebacker in Hightower. Obviously, different. CMC still going, of course. Plenty of accolades versus Deontay Hightower. Patriot from the start to the end. Multiple time Super Bowl winner. Joe, do you want to speak on McCaffrey, considering he's, on your team at the minute?
Yeah. So obviously it's tricky with McCaffrey. I think he's got 3 first-team All-Pros and 1 second-team All-Pro. So for a running back, that is a highlight. Obviously, he was the Offensive Player of the Year in 2023. The second year was with the 49ers, and he changed that franchise. I think that's the kind of player you look out for. If he changes teams, does he make a difference? And he just changed that 49ers team completely when he moved across, and how much he's been dependent for this 49ers team, how much they gave him the rock. Even last year, we were all saying, how is he still going? I'm curious, when you look at all of his stats, like, he has had quite a few injuries. And if he didn't have them injuries, how high would he be on a lot of these records? Because you look at comparing against other running backs, he's like, oh, surely he's got like all-purpose yards. He should be super high, but actually, because of the injuries, he's not as high as you would expect. But he's had a great career, and he's still going. Where he's 29 now, so if he gets a couple of more years, and he'll keep climbing on that, and he's clearly the number 1 running back for the 49ers. I think this one's just a bit tricky because it's against it's not the. Hightower had I'd say just one great year. He obviously has a couple of great years. He had 2 Pro Bowls, one at 2016, one 2019. He was a second team All-Pro in 2016. But in terms of like the overall career, I'm going to leave the McCaffrey. I'll just say what my choice. And I think he's had more years where he's been the top 2 or 3 in his position at running back. I don't know if Hightower was ever the standout. He's the best linebacker there is in this league. Obviously, had a great year in 2016, but that's it. So I think, McCaffrey's, I would say he's lucky that he's progressing because who he's against. Even though I think McCaffrey's had a great career, I just think some of the injuries is not, I don't think it'll be looked at like a lot of other running backs who have got higher stats just because of the injuries.
And I think that ability to kind of bounce back from some of those injuries, because he's had quite severe and significant injuries, and to bounce back and get back to his same level doesn't really seem to have dropped off at all in terms of his levels of performance and things. Just due to the position he plays, things might change now as he's kind of getting to 30, and that's natural for the running back position, right? But I think again he's another one in terms of just completely sort of changed the view or a little bit of how people see the running back position, and I don't think he's necessarily benefited from it as much as others have, but certainly kind of that focus on just what weapons in an offensive game plan running backs can be and how versatile and how many different ways he can hurt you. I think is a testament to just his ability. And I think this year as well, more than anything, again, he achieved another first this year. I think he was the first player in NFL history to be a finalist for MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, and Comeback Player of the Year all in the same season. Well, I don't think he won any of them, but it's not the point. It's in terms of again just that performance and ability of, and he's up there with again these new different running backs that have come in. It's almost like some of these running backs then have reversed. Like B. John's been there the last 3 years, coming in as a bit of share some similar sets, but then you've got Ashton Genty, who's maybe a bit of a throwback thudder running back that's and that might start coming back into fashion, but he just seems to ride the wave, McCaffrey, and slot in no matter what kind of the trend is or how running backs are being used. He's still the main part of an offensive game plan, and was so productive because he caught the back end of that Panthers good run, and actually they were a pretty poor team while he was there, and yet was still just so productive. So yeah, Byron, do you want to go and just share some thoughts on Hightower maybe, because we all got CMC crazy there?
I mean, you put me under a bit there because truthfully, I agree with Joe. I think Deontay Hightower is very lucky. If you're talking about McCaffrey's lucky to be progressing against Deontay Hightower, I think Deontay Hightower, if he was drafted 1 pick early, wouldn't be in consideration. So I don't want to be disparaging to the guy, but a couple of really good seasons. I think when the Patriots defense was great in that era, he was a real core part of it. Really felt like the heartbeat of that team, a bit of a kind of a throwback to maybe Teddy Bruschi or the Mike Vrabel of being like Bill Belichick on the field, who really seemed to embody the franchise. But for that peak he had, I think it was relatively short. He missed a lot of the 2017 season through injury as well. And then his career just he opted out of the COVID season and then came back 21, wasn't the same player. And it took a little while to get to that elite level of player. I think that's fairly common with the Patriots as well. They bring rookies on pretty slowly when they were at their best. So yeah, Hightower, a really important Patriot, but I don't think, we look at some of the linebackers that have made it through here and have already missed out. I think, Hightower, like I say, if he'd been picked 24 in that class with Ed Reed, Aaron Rodgers, Chris Johnson, Des Bryant, etc., he wouldn't have made the shortlist, really. So I think it's pretty comfortably CMC. And I know you talk about CMC using multiple ways. He's had 5 seasons where he's played 16 or more games. He's had 100 or more receptions in 3 of those. He is not just a running back. He is an offensive weapon in the most complementary way. It used to be a thing that people said about running backs who couldn't run very well but were fast. Christian McCaffrey is might well be the best offensive player of his generation. So yeah, I don't think he's getting past because he's playing against someone like Deontay Hightower. I think he fully deserves to be progressing to the next round. I don't know who he matches up with. I'm not that good at tracking brackets. But yeah, I think he's well worthy of it and really one of the generational offensive players. So.
Well, yeah, CMC then progresses to our Sweet 16. On to our next matchup then. We've got this again. I think this is another tough one. Maybe more sentimental reasons, I think. But we've got battle of the old linemen. So we've got a fair few old linemen, I think, in this one. So we've got Trent Williams taken by the Washington Commanders or football team, maybe it was at the time. Oh no, definitely not. But anyway, the Washington team with the 4th overall pick in the 2010 draft. Alongside those to go the 4 slots, so the honourable mentions: Phil Rivers, DeBrickashaw Ferguson, Lane Johnson. You probably count yourself unlucky to miss out on this, Lane Johnson. Ezekiel Elliott, certainly for the first few years, and more recently Denzel Ward. So Trent Williams was our pick. Going up against the number 29, the player from the number 25 slot, Nick Mangold, taking out the 2006 draft for the New York Jets. I suppose honourable mention for slot 29, Harrison Smith, who's obviously just finished up his NFL career, safety from the Minnesota Vikings, who probably would have been a very worthy pick as well, I think. Harrison Smith, an incredible career he had. But Trent Williams against Nick Mangold. Joe, I'll let you kick off as well. Again, Trent Williams is one of your current players, but most importantly, drafted by the Washington football team.
Yeah, it's the battle of the all linemen, so centre versus left tackle. Yeah, when you just look at if you just look at the awards, so Trent 3-time first team All Pro, all with the 49ers, 21 to 23, and second team All Pro in 2015, and the season just gone. He's a 12-time Pro Bowler. I always find Pro Bowls weird just because it's all about it feels like a lot like name value by the end. It's just everyone knows who's Trent Williams, so we'll just vote for him. So that's why I always look at All Pro. Well, Nick Mangold played for the Jets for the 10 years, and he was a 2-time All Pro, first team, and 1 All Pro, second team with 7 Pro Bowls. Again, Trent Williams, the sign of a great player, goes to a team, somehow gets traded for if it was a 3rd-round pick, who knows how, and just a generational left tackle. I think one of the you would say about him is always there with when everyone said who's the best left tackle, and he's always in that conversation, the dancing bear, that how big he is, but just with his feet he can block anyone, and he's 37 now, and he's still going strong. I think that's a big consideration, that he's played for a long time, obviously being drafted in 2010, so a good 16 years, and going on to his 17th year and still getting all pro nods. I think that's a sign of how great he is. Obviously, being on the Washington teams, both being on Washington and the Jets, it's unlucky for both of them in terms of the teams they started with. But Nick Mangold, who sadly passed away in October, also had a great career with the Jets as a centre. It's like we talked about Hutchinson before. It's always tricky to stand out as an offensive lineman, especially a centre as well, to get the accolades. But he was when you think of them Jets teams, like the Jets when they were good at that point under Ryan, they had a great offensive line, and Nick Mangold was the player. It felt like he was a fan favorite as well, which you don't always get with centers. I know there's been a few around, so he gets consideration. But I don't know. Am I being a homer again? I'm going to go Trent Williams with my vote with this one, just because he's got 2 more All Pro nods in terms of 1 more first team, 1 more second team, and all the Pro Bowls. So that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I think it's more. I think, but it's tough with Mangold again. It's just such a tough matchup against Trent Williams. I think just the way this is flat out, because going to someone obviously another member of the O line, and I think kind of when Trent Williams does hang it up, however many years time that may be, I think he's going to go into the discussion of the greatest of all time for his position. Don't know if we're kind of quite there with Nick Mangold. Incredibly good, no doubt about that. Part of, those last Jets teams to make the playoffs. Phenomenal player in his own right. But I don't know. He's probably on that second tier, maybe as centers. But another one who's just kind of jet all the way through. Real face of the franchise, all around fantastic guy. Makes great barbecue sauce. Made great barbecue sauce. You can still get that Mangold 74 barbecue sauce. Maybe that's a nod. That should be a little push in his favour. Does Trent Williams make good barbecue sauce? Exactly. Byron, where are you? Mangold and Williams.
So I'm just thinking of our player associated food products for the 2027 March Madness bracket. I've had Aaron Jones's cereal. I've yet to have Nick Mangold's barbecue sauce, so we'll see how that goes. To me, I think we're 2-0 on Trent Williams here, if I'm hearing you correctly there, Paul. Yeah, it's 3-0. Again, kind of, I mentioned earlier about like quarterbacks. My tiebreaker kind of goes to the most important position. I think the most important position on the line is left tackle, and Trent Williams, I think, has been the best of his generation. Joe Thomas, maybe there is some crossover of generation there, so maybe it's Joe Thomas, maybe it's Trent Williams, but Trent Williams has been elite for a very long time. And like Joe said, what age is he now? Did you say 37? I think, you talk about like how you notice a great player. You also notice him when he's not there. And boy, does San Francisco notice him when he's not there. Still at 37, still playing like one of the best tackles in the league. I don't think this is an especially close one. Mangold, a real icon for the Jets and a real big figure, like you say, of that Rex Ryan team when they were getting to AFC Championship games. I mean, that's how I think it's in black and white at that point. But yeah, I think Trent Williams, just for how dominant he still is in the league, put him pretty comfortably in for me. Cool.
Trent Williams progresses to our Sweet 16. Just one last shout out on Mangold's 74 barbecue sauce. Also supports, you buy a bottle of Mangold's barbecue 74 barbecue sauce. Some of that money goes to supporting the families of New York City police officers, firefighters, etc., who've been killed in the line of duty. So you get a great barbecue sauce and you support a great cause as well. So go get yourself some Mangold's 74 barbecue. No free ads. Next up, then, we've got our battle of number 13, Aaron Donald. These big heavy hitters taken in the 2014 draft by the Rams out of Pitt against Aqib Talib, the number 20 pick taken in the 08 draft. So in the 13 slot, we could have also had, again, I don't think this one was close, but John Abraham, Brian Arakpo, Brandon Graham, Laramie Tunsil, or Tristan Wirfs. And then Aqib Talib in the 08 draft at 20. There was Tamba Hali, Cal Long, and more recently, JSN, who maybe consider himself unlucky not to be picked. Maybe it was a couple of years down the line, JSN could have been it. But Aqib Talib and Aaron Donald, just one of the, if not the most dominant interior defensive linemen, certainly of our generation in the NFL. Again, he's another one similar to Keithley, but obviously for different reasons. It feels like we still should be seeing Aaron Donald on our screens every Sunday, lining up for the Rams.
Yeah, I'm sure the LA Rams would love that as well. Sean McVay would. Yeah, I think do almost anything to have Aaron Donald back on that team. I'm not sure there's too much breakdown here, truthfully. I think you could have Aqib Talib, JSN, Cal Long, and Tamba Hali as one player. Like an Aaron Donald. No offense to any of those four men, but Aaron Donald's like one of one. So Aqib Talib, hell of a career, drafted by the Bucs. Played for the Patriots, obviously, won the Super Bowl. Number of one All-Pro, number of Pro Bowls, was second team All-Pro as well. Really distinguished career. My favorite memory of him, I'm sure a lot of people's, not necessarily something nice, but him and Michael Crabtree, him snatching Michael Crabtree's chain and just being like, I am your fucking daddy. You are not going to have an easy time of it today. But Talib, bounced around the league a little, but always played for good teams, was a really, really good contributor, really good defensive back. But, like, I'm not trying to rush us along in any way, but, like, it's Aaron Donald. Like, Aaron Donald is
what are you talking about?
Ultimately one of one. Like, if one of you can make an argument for Aqib Talib, I'd love to hear it, but it's Aaron Donald.
It is tough for this one. Maybe we'll save we'll get into some deeper Aaron Donald chat in the next round, maybe. But yeah, we can save that. But yeah, it's Aaron Donald for me. He's probably, again, the most dominant player in his position in a generation in the NFL, I think. Maybe Sapp, maybe. Maybe Warren Sapp, maybe you could compare him to.
I thought he said Snacks, like Snacks Harrison. I'm like, what have I misheard here? Sapp, yes, that's a good shout.
Yeah, maybe in terms of just how dominant he was. But yeah, Joe, is it unanimous? Aaron Donald?
Yeah, I think this might be one of the easiest ones. No offense to Talib, who's a great cornerback, but just Aaron Donald is just maybe argument the greatest defensive tackle there's ever been. So it's Aaron Donald clearly.
Cool. We'll move on then and quickly just to try and speed up because it's a long first round. This one, we've got our another round one match, of course. The number 12 option, the number 12 pick. We've got Micah Parsons, of course, drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, who I just left off the list when we did this in the 2021 draft. Going ahead of the likes of Sean Merriman, Haloti Ngata, Marshawn Lynch, Fletcher Cox, Odell Beckham Jr., and Vita Vea. But Parsons, we were saying, is the best player to come out of the 12 slot against the number 21 pick, Vince Wilfork of the Patriots, who came out of the 2004 draft. At 21, we also had Alex Mack, Chandler Jones, and Trent McDuffie. So not as much competition for Vince Wilfork. Active player against a retired one, of course. Parsons hurts now, I think, because he's obviously on the Packers and not a Dallas Cowboy, but unbelievable start to a career, kind of matching some of those, matching some of the all-time greats in terms of starts to a career. Feels like he's on pace to be a first ballot Hall of Famer the way he's going.
Yeah, I mean, Pro Bowler every year, All-Pro or second team All-Pro 4 or 5 years, a Defensive Player of the Year nominee, I think every single year. Just an absolute behemoth. I mean, yeah, fair enough. Like, you can replace the production of Kenny Clark if you're Jerry Jones, but I argued this a lot last year. To be fair, with like Cowboys and non-Cowboys fans, like trying to downplay it because he had a lot of similarities to Reggie White at that stage of his career, and people are like, well, he's not Reggie White. It's like, well, you look at what he's actually done on the field and through their first X amount of games, he's not that far off actually. And Reggie White is like an all-time legendary figure in the league. And I almost think Micah Parsons, because he plays for the Cowboys, has been a little like he gets talked about because he plays for the Cowboys, but like I don't think people actually like look at what he's done in the league and go like, this guy's unbelievable. Like when I said about like there's maybe one pass rusher I think kind of stands up with Myles Garrett, and you've got to remember Parsons is a lot younger, but like in terms of instant impact, I think Parsons is there with him. It'd be really interesting to see how quickly and how well he comes off this ACL injury. But Parsons is another one for me who's just like elite out of the box. Didn't take any settling into the league. It's a real shame he's not on the Cowboys because he's such a fun player to watch and root for. But yeah, again, I don't want to rush us here in any way, but Vince Wilfork, really, really good career. Again, another one with 5 Pro Bowls, 4 All-Pros, first or second team in his career. But I just think not all of them years were up years in his career. He played a long time. We're judging Parsons on what he's done. We can't speculate what he's going to do for 10 years, but he's on a Hall of Fame pace, like without any question. Vince Wilfork, I think, would be very, very fortunate to get in the Hall of Fame, as good as he was for those Patriots teams, and as fun of a guy as he seems as well. Big overalls guy, always seems like a real good character. But I think on field, just coming out and being who he is, Micah Parsons has to progress for me.
Yeah, I think that Vince Wilfork just consistently very, very good. Yeah. Not like an elite, which seems harsh, but like and I always think those Patriots players, the players who stayed on those Patriots teams for long periods of time, like you've got to be really, really good to to be with Belichick all those years and be trusted and deliver the way he did, and a key part of some of those defenses as well. I think, to kind of doing that dirty work that maybe just goes unheralded, I think, at times, and very, very good at it as well. And that's probably reflected in some of the accolades the Patriots have given him in terms of, I think he's part of the Patriots all 2000s team, all 2010 team. So across that kind of period, which is probably kind of that period in between kind of the two runs, the 3 at the start and then the 3 at the start of 2000s and the 3 in kind of the mid 2010s onwards, when they had the full 10-year gap between championships, and he did obviously a lot of those teams in between. And yeah, he's part of the Patriots all dynasty team as well. So I think Vince Wilfork, again, very, very good. But Parsons is on path to be a great. He's not had less than 12 sacks in a season in 5 years in the NFL, including missing a lot of, a decent amount of games the last 2 seasons as well. Yeah, so I'm Parsons. Joe, where are you?
Yep, Parsons all 3. So,
excellent. All right. that was a relatively easy one. But always good to talk about Vince Wilfork because he is awesome. So yeah, Micah Parsons then wins that, and I'm just trying to keep the bracket going as I go. Did a total job of it. Next up, we've got, and again, this is a great matchup, two different positions, but offensive battle. We've got LaDainian Tomlinson as our best 5th overall pick from the 2001 draft, drafted by the San Diego Superchargers. Again, in that slot, there was Sean Taylor, Khalil Mack, Jalen Ramsey, Jamar Chase. Pretty studded 5 slot there. Going up against our best player in the 28th pick, and that's Joe Staley. Oh, an actual San Francisco 49er by draft, Joe. Not one of these players you've just picked up along the way. Joe, do you want to start with talking about Joe Staley? What an unbelievable player.
Yeah, obviously the one who Trent replaced at left tackle. He was the Stohall. He was the main man on that offensive line when they had great years under Harbaugh, obviously with the Kaepernick years, and get to the Super Bowl. And yeah, it was a great left tackle. He had a great career, but I'm going to be short and sweet. Like I said, we are taking time first. He got 3 second team All Pros and no first team, so he was never the best at his position. But LaDainian Tomlinson, he got an MVP at running back, offensive running, 3 first team All Pros, 3 second team All Pros, and just when you think of the position, especially like in the noughties, you think of LaDainian Tomlinson, just how good he was, the most rushing touchdowns in a season in 2006, 28, and he was just just incredible Pro Bowl, Hall of Famer. So I'm just going to go LT. Let's take LaDainian Tomlinson in this matchup.
Thought we were going to have a bit of a fight on our hands, and I thought Joe was really going to push for Staley. Insane LaDainian Tomlinson. Yeah, MVP 2006, Offensive Player of the Year 2006. Also won Walter Payton Man of the Year in that same season as well. So not just his on-field, 3-time All-Pro, first team All-Pro, 3-time second team All-Pro, twice the rushing yards leader, 3 times touchdown leader, all-decade team, Hall of Famer. I mean, wouldn't you kill just to have that 2006 LaDainian Tomlinson season in your fantasy team?
Oh. Yeah, I think even I would win a championship with LT.
Yeah, 28 rushing touchdowns, 31 in total. Still records, NFL records. Just electric. I think even in the late years, even like again, LT. We talked about Mangold. LT was on those Jets teams that made the AFC Championship game. Like obviously much later on his career, his last 2 seasons. But yeah, just electric to watch, just highlight reel, and just felt like every time he got the ball, he could score.
Yeah, the one thing Staley does have over him is yards per reception. He had 3 catches for 26 yards, 8.7 average. LT only averaged 7.6, so I don't think that's going to sway anyone, but I think it's worth mentioning. We know Jay Staley for his blocking and his elite O-line play, but sneaky weapon out the backfield, so I don't think we should disparage that. But yeah, it's LT for me as well.
LT, yeah. So we've had a run of unanimous ones. So LT into our Sweet 16. Right, moving on to the other side of the bracket. So we've got our number 2 seed. Our best number 2 overall pick, which is also our 2 seed. Megatron, Calvin Johnson, taken 2nd overall in the 2007 draft. Again, I thought this was a pretty stacked slot as well. A lot more defensive players, but Julius Peppers and Ndamukong Suh and Von Miller all taken 2nd overall with shouts that have missed out against our number 31 player, our best 31 pick, which is Cam Hayward, still going for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We had honorable mentions for Greg Olsen. I think he's unlucky to miss out here. And Travis Frederick, one of my all-time favorite Cowboys players. Should we start with Megatron? I mean, that in itself, like...
2027, we're doing food-related links with players and nickname bracket. Going to be all brackets next year.
Greatest sporting nicknames draft or bracket, I think. We should definitely do that, yeah.
Well, I'm going to throw in a quick sleeper then, just because I like stretching our episodes out. No one's expecting Tariq Cohen to get mentioned today, right? We have Tariq Cohen, the Bears running back.
He's not in the list now.
No, he wasn't the first round pick. If he was, maybe. Especially if he was drafted like 18th or something. Spoiler alert for our next pick there. He was nicknamed the Human Joystick, great nickname. Also to D'Angelo Hall, great returner. Also known as Chicken Salad. I've never figured out why. But every time I go to his PFR page, it always makes me laugh. But yes, Megatron. Like you say, what more can you say? Cameron Hayward doesn't even have a nickname. So, you've been in the league 35 years and you don't have a nickname. It's kind of telling, Cam. The one thing that dings Calvin Johnson is the lack of longevity, and I guess the lack of success on a team level. But Cameron Hayward doesn't win a Super Bowl, and he's been on the Steelers all that time. So we don't expect Lions players to win Super Bowls. We do expect Steelers ones to. Again, kind of what I said, and I'm dinging myself here for the Troy Polamalu, Steve Hutchinson thing. Charlie could watch the NFL and know that Calvin Johnson is the man and is close to unstoppable. Cameron Hayward has been a really good player for a long time and a lot of years. Racked up Pro Bowls, good number of All Pros, first and second team. I think 3 and 1, second team 1. But Calvin Johnson is jump off the page, leaps off the screen. This man is not like every other player on this field. To me, it has to be Calvin Johnson. I wish he played for longer, as I'm sure the Lions do. Although they did get some of his signing on bonus money back, so good for them. That story's come back up this week with the all-lineman whose name has gone out of my head. You know what I mean. Glasgow, Frank Ragnow, whichever one it is.
Yeah.
I always get them mixed up. Cheers. I think it just has to be Calvin Johnson. Hall of Famer. Bang. It's Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, there's so many things. What this reminded me of putting this together was looking at some of the things is, you remember that game where Calvin Johnson had 300 plus receiving yards against the Cowboys? In a game, it's fucking insane.
In a game, yeah, not his entire career.
Was it Thanksgiving, or was it just a normal game?
No, I think it was just a normal game. I think the game ended up going to overtime. I think it was obviously shootout. I'm pretty sure it was still like it's 2013, so that'd have still been Romo, wouldn't it? And it was just Romo and Stafford just kind of going up and down the field on each year. And I think the Lions came back late and took it to overtime and won. 329 receiving yards in a game. Insane. But yeah, just loads of bits. He still has the single season receiving yards record. Some people have come close. Yep. I think somebody's probably going to get there now on 17 games, I think. But on 16 games, 1,964, which he set in 2012. 8 games he holds a record. He holds a record with Adam Thielen, of all people. Consecutive games with 100 plus receiving yards, 8 in a row, which is insane. Holds a record with Michael Irvin, most 100-yard receiving games in a single season. 11 out of 16 games he reached 100 receiving yards, which is insane. He holds just all of the Detroit Lions records, of course, as well. Just phenomenal. Just a freak. And it was so much fun because it's such a good combination. Calvin Johnson and Matt Stafford, I think, were just such a good combo. It kind of worked so well together. And it was a shame that I didn't have any kind of real, actual success because just the Lions just suck so much. But it certainly wasn't because of those two guys, for sure. Another one of the NFL's 2010s all-decade team. And again, I feel this is just a bit of an unfair matchup for Cam Hayward. Again, Cam Hayward, another great player, 4-time first-team All-Pro, which again, at that position, and he's done it across his career. I think he was an All-Pro in 2024, so relatively recently, and he's, 36? Mm-hmm. Again, another just great player. I love kind of he's a Pittsburgh guy as well. Like he's from Pittsburgh Steeler fan, and ultimately he's going to spend his whole career playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is pretty cool. But sadly, that's not going to be enough, I don't think, to get you through to our Sweet 16. So thanks for coming, Cam. But it is Calvin Johnson, unanimous Calvin Johnson through to our Sweet 16.
Yeah, if you were like creating a wide receiver in terms of like if you were like just somehow you had a machine to create a wide receiver, it would probably just be Calvin Johnson. That's who you would pick. I'll keep some of his stats for the next round just because we'll go to the next one.
Yeah, excellent, cool. So we're on to our number 15 against number 18. We've got our best 15th overall pick, Jason Pierre-Paul, who held off competition from Albert Hainsworth, Ryan Shazier, and Latu, who may turn out to be a very, very good player for the Colts and others, who knows. Against that number 18 pick, who's somehow still going and has just recently re-signed with the Bengals, Joe Flacco out of the 2008 draft. His competition was Marquise Pouncey, Melvin Ingram, Marcus Peters, and Jack Campbell. Flacco against JPP. What do we make of this matchup?
I think it's really telling when you go through the honorable mentions as well. I think this is the worst matchup we have. I think if these two players were at basically any other number, they wouldn't have made the shortlist, truthfully. Although Flacco is a current Pro Bowler.
Yes.
Which tells you a lot about the amount of players who dropped out of Pro Bowl consideration this year. It doesn't tell you that much about how good Joe Flacco was in his, 10 starts I think he made in total. He's fine. He's here for me because he had an elite playoff run. He was a franchise quarterback for the Ravens for a long time with, mixed success. But I've said already, quarterback success will elevate you because it's the hardest position and the most important position. JPP, again, like that list of names there, like no disrespect to Latu. I put him on the short list, so like I'm not going to disparage him, but like he's not who you think of as an all-time great draft pick at this point in his career. He's had a fine start to his career, but he's not Mike Parsons or Myles Garrett and like, oh my goodness, this guy's unstoppable. And like I said, Joe Flacco is there for me because he had an elite playoff run and won a Super Bowl off the back of it. It's a really tough matchup between the two of them here. JPP, won 2 Super Bowls, All-Pro, multi-time Pro Bowler. Is that enough to push him ahead of a quarterback who won a Super Bowl? I'm going to hold my vote for now in a rare move. So I'm going to let you guys chip in and see who convinces me, if there is a convincing here.
I think I've got a good thing that might convince you. So do we think JPP is the only player to have won a second Super Bowl with less digits on his hand than he did when he won it the first time?
Yes. I don't have proof, but yes, I think that, yeah.
I think that's worthy of, would have been more impressive if it was a quarterback. So like Joe Flacco does that.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Still time. Joe Flacco's still playing.
There is still time. JPP.
It's telling me here. Tell me here, JPP played in 2025. Did anybody else know about this?
Yeah, it was on the books. Yeah.
News to me. That is wild. I thought he hadn't played for like 5 years. Apparently, he also played it. He played for the Saints and the Dolphins in 2023.
Yeah.
I'm leaning more towards Flacco because this end of career arc is dinging him, not helping him. He played for the Ravens.
What's Joe Flacco's end of career arc doing then?
Getting the Pro Bowl, winning comeback player of the year is what he's doing.
Okay, I'm going to go. The bit that's tipping it in favor for me is JPP because of this accolade. He is the 61st greatest New York Giant of all time.
The
New York Giants.
Okay, right.
And if you had 6 and 1 together, that's how many digits it's got. So I'm gonna choose Flacco. So because Byron chickened out at the beginning, he gets the choice. So it comes down to Byron.
Fantastic, Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco, okay. Joe Flacco makes it to our Sweet 16.
JPP's got some AI invented end of career games here and teams, so that's dinged him for me. He's obviously ChatGPT the end of the PFR page to include the Saints, the Dolphins, the Ravens, and apparently the Bucks last year. That didn't happen. Don't try and Mandela effect me, JPP. You're out.
Cool. All right. This one I think will probably also be easy. So the greatest number 10, 10th or greatest 10th pick in NFL draft history, or the past 20. Well, probably was in NFL history, but certainly the past 25 years. We got Patrick Mahomes out the 17th draft. Who wasn't the first quarterback taken in that draft? Remember who was?
The MVP.
The MVP, Mitch Trubisky, correct. Yes, the MVP himself.
Just to give some credit there.
To get.
Yeah, I mean, they only traded one spot, to be fair. I don't know why, but they did. I have newspaper clippings from that day from Chicago, and basically every analyst, Daniel Jeremiah, Mel Kiper, etc., they all had at least Trubisky ahead of Pat Mahomes. It wasn't like a wild take the Bears did. It worked out embarrassingly, but like, I wasn't watching. I didn't have ranks at that time in my life, but a lot of analysts, I don't know if any had Mahomes ahead of Trubisky. So it's fun to ding on the Bears, but it seems like pretty much anyone who was making that decision in the media would have made the same one. Still funny, though.
Still funny, yeah. Mahomes taking the 2017 draft. Honourable mentions to Terrell Suggs, Jared Mayo, and Stephon Gilmore, who retired today, I think. Stephon Gilmore officially retired today. What a great career he has had. But yeah, of course, it's Patrick Mahomes. And then 23, this was one where this was a struggle, but we've gone with Willis McGahee, running back drafted by the Buffalo Bills. A story of what might have been, I think, Willis McGahee, his career, and we'll get to that in a second because it's a story worth telling. Honourable mentions to Brian Balaga, the Packers O-lineman, Evan Ingram, it's bad if we've got Evan Ingram as an option, and Juice McAllister from the 01 draft, but Willis McGahee got the nod. So, Byron, do you want to just wax lyrical about Patrick Mahomes for a second?
Always. Probably the best quarterback since he got drafted into the NFL. Not probably. The best quarterback since he got drafted into the NFL. 6 Pro Bowls, 2-time All-Pro, 2-time All-Pro first team, MVP multiple times, 3-time Super Bowl champion, nearly a three-peat in there as well. And I think his level of play has maybe gone down a little the last couple of years, but when he came out that first year as a start in 2018, it was almost like watching someone play a sport we'd not seen played before. Just throwing the ball at levels I've still not seen. He still does unique things every single week. To me, he's very useful with his legs on the ground, and he's so clutch. Even as things around him have got worse and worse, it just doesn't seem to impact him so much. I mean, obviously there is a level. You're not going to be as good without Tyreek Hill and peak Travis Kelce as you were with them. But, you look at Rashee Rice's numbers he put up, and I don't think Rashee Rice is doing that on 31 other teams. A really, really special player who, is now probably going to have a slow start to the 2026 season, coming back from ACL injury. But like Tom Brady in years gone by, I'll be the last person to write him off and say that he's not going to be able to come back successfully. I think the ACL might even fuel him more, which is kind of crazy to think because he seems very driven as it is. Yeah, I'm not going to say my favorite player in the league, but certainly one of them. It's hard to pick like one. But anytime you get to watch Patrick Mahomes, especially in a big game, it's must-see TV. You really want to be there watching it. You don't have to watch the highlights the next day.
Yeah. Also does the best Kermit the Frog impression in the NFL as well. So, so speaking of Patrick Mahomes, obviously ACL injury, that's the story of Willis McGahee. He was part of the Miami college teams, the Miami Hurricane teams, the early 2000s that were just producing top-tier NFL players. And in and around the national championship, and in the national championship game, the Fiesta Bowl, 2003 Fiesta Bowl, he goes down and tears his ACL, PCL, MCL in a time where players don't come back as regularly from those injuries in the early 2000s. And it just he still ended up having a 10-year career in the NFL, drafted by the Bills. And like I say, also, if he didn't have that injury, I think he ends up going top 3 in that 2003 draft, not 23rd. Spent some time with the Ravens, Broncos, and then had his final year with the Cleveland Browns. But very much a case of what might have been. Still had good years and was still relatively productive. 10,000 yards from scrimmage. But yeah, it just would have been a much different career had he not had that injury. But just ripped his knee apart, and would have been different for sure. But he has 4 1,000-yard rushing seasons, including his first 2 for the Bills before he went to the Ravens. Started off well, and again, just kind of just ends up kind of having more of kind of a backup role or a second fiddle role at the back end of his career. But yeah, such a shame because I think he would have been an absolute. I think he may have been in that conversation as one of the all-time great running backs because of just how explosive he was, and his ability to kind of have those home run hits of those long rushes for touchdowns. But yeah, a shame. So yeah, Mahomes for me, of course, as well, into the Sweet 16. Cool. Right. Next up, we've got our 7th Yep, so all-time greatest 7 pick of the last 25 years. Again, this was tough. So we're going with Josh Allen taken out of Wyoming in 2018 for the Buffalo Bills. There was also Adrian Peterson, Joe Hayden, Mike Evans, and Penei Sewell, all fantastic players. I think some of them can consider themselves unlucky, but Josh Allen. And then in our the greatest player in the 26 slot of the last 25 years, Clay Matthews of the Green Bay Packers. Taken in the 09 draft. Again, not as much competition. Montez Sweat of the Commanders and Jordan Love also of the Packers. So, yeah, not too much to Clay Matthews. We just talked about Mahomes as well. So, again, someone who's intertwined with Patrick Mahomes, certainly in this part of his NFL career. Josh Allen, again, just probably just completely different style and something we've just not been used to seeing for such a long time in the NFL when Josh Allen came out of Wyoming in 2018. Rough start, as you know, he had a rough first year, but it's been greatness ever since, including winning an MVP. Josh Allen.
Yeah, so I talked earlier about like Drew Brees rebirthing the franchise. I think this is the one I was thinking of when I was thinking of Hanover. You could maybe throw Mahomes in there as well, but I think Andy Reid had kind of already got that, lightning in a bottle going in Kansas. I think Josh Allen has completely changed how we think of the Buffalo Bills from being like, the team who lost 4 Super Bowls in a row to being Josh Allen's team who can win on any given week unless it's the AFC Championship game and can go toe-to-toe with any team in the NFL unless it's the AFC Championship game. Another one who's must-see TV. You always want to watch Josh Allen. And Clay Matthews, really, really good career. And he had probably an easier path than he might have got, but I think he was well worth his placement here anyway. 6-time Pro Bowler, All-Pro, and All-Pro second team. But again, I don't think this is much of a decision. Josh Allen is not quite one of one, but he's certainly in that consideration. MVP, obviously, last year, or 2024 season. I'm not sure I would say last year or this year on last year's thing, but just the way he's turned around the Bills to be like one of the elite teams in the NFL. I don't think there's much question here.
Do you think this is the best thing that's going to have happened to Josh Allen today?
I don't know what else has happened to Josh Allen today. So
he's become a father for the first time. He welcomed his baby with his wife, Haley
Steinfeld. Something like that. Yeah, I'm not big on
his wife,
but yep.
Yeah,
Mrs. Allen.
Mrs. Allen. They've just announced in the last couple of hours that the birth of their first child. So obviously that second under getting to the Sweet 16 in our bracket, of course.
Yeah, I don't know how many children Clay Matthews has fathered, whether we should factor that in or not. But I'm going to go just on field and give it Josh Allen.
3 kids, Clay Matthews. There you go.
Oh.
Joe, what do you remember? Clay Matthews more of kind of, I think he probably had his peak 2010 was probably his best season, part of that Packers Super Bowl winning team.
Yeah,
I remember it just being such a fun part of those Packers teams. It's just kind of big personality. There's the big celebrations from sacks and big defensive plays for sure. And he obviously has the lineage you kind of mentioned. Obviously, his dad, I think, played linebacker as well.
His uncle
brother
was a Hall of Fame.
His uncle Bruce Matthews. Yeah, his brother Casey.
I think he's going to be one of them which joins Troy Polamalu in the hair bracket next year in terms of best hair for an NFL player, because obviously I must have modeled my look off him when I had longer hair. But yeah, it's clearly Josh Allen for me as well. It's the ultimate, this is what they're going to do. Try and stop it. You can't stop it. And he's that player. Well, I think Matthews had a great career. Only 1 first-team All-Pro, 1 second-team All-Pro. And I think Josh Allen is. I think he was hard. I think with this one, Josh Allen's 7 in terms of who gets picked at 7 was a lot harder than this matchup, I would say.
Yeah.
Because we all went different.
Let's move on to the next one then. We've got our number 3, our best player for the number 3 draft position. It's Larry Fitzgerald. Again, another tough one. Joe Thomas. We talked about him in the Trent Williams conversation earlier. Matt Ryan, Sam Darnold, Quinnen Williams. We had Larry Fitz from the 2004 draft for the Arizona Cardinals. And TJ Watt, the number 30 slots, the best number 30 player. Again, definitely into stuff. Reggie Wayne from the 01 draft was there. TJ Watt out at 17. And George Karlaftis, who has had a great start to his career and may end up having a fantastic one by the time it finishes. But yeah, TJ Watt of the Pittsburgh Steelers, the first of the Watt brothers, because we'll talk about JJ later on. There's a bit of a spoiler. This is a tough matchup for TJ Watt because I just love Larry Fitzgerald. And my favorite, we have the stats that get trotted out, the little unique or niche stats. My favorite one that ever gets pulled out is Larry Fitzgerald has more tackles than drops in his NFL career, which is phenomenal for a wide receiver for as long as he was doing it for. Any words on Larry Fitz?
Ed Reed has that same stat as well, I believe. Never dropped any of his punt returns, but plenty of tackles. Larry Fitz, I believe, second all-time in receiving yardage. And, I mean, he's a mile off first, but who isn't? So consistent, playing with... If you discount Kurt Warner, dog shit quarterbacks throughout his entire career, and yet somehow multi-time Pro Bowler, 11 in his career. Not as many All-Pros, so I think 3 All-Pros, 2 of them second team.
That's criminal as well, I think.
I'm not that sure it is. I love Larry Fitz, but to me, he was more compiler than standout elite every season. He was really good every season, but every year it did feel like there was someone or two who, like Julio Jones or Calvin Johnson or Reggie Wayne, who would be just above him that year. But over a body, he was just always there. And he'd be top 10 every year, but he might not be top 2 many years. It does sound crazy. I do appreciate it, but I'm not sure when you look at how many good receivers. There's constantly been since that time, really. Just somebody has one elite year, and you end up being the 5th best receiver, not the second. Larry Fitz so consistent. It is hard on TJ Watt here because TJ Watt, again, there's not much more he could do. Pro Bowl, I think every year other than his rookie year, 7 or 8 Pro Bowls. He's always there and thereabout. But I'm gonna lean Larry Fitz just on more longevity. And again, he's second all-time in receiving. It's really hard to pass that up. But TJ Watt has still got years to go, which, I don't want to ding him for not doing things that he couldn't have done. But I am going to lean Larry Fitz just for length of time, carrying a franchise. Yeah, one of the hardest ones we've had though, but I'm gonna lean Larry Fitz.
Joe, where are you? Larry Fitz, TJ Watt.
You know what, Byron? When I was thinking about it, I'm gonna lean Larry Fitzgerald. But then when Byron was talking about, I was like, oh, there's obviously TJ Watt in terms of TJ Watt's being the best player at his position. I would say. I think it's always in between him and Garrett and then Parsons. I think TJ Watt's been in certain seasons, he's been the best defensive end. And I don't think there's ever been a season where you would say Larry Fitzgerald has been the best wide receiver that year. I'm not quite sure. Obviously, TJ Watt, you mentioned all his four first-team All-Pros, 2 second-team All-Pros. He's had the Defensive Player of the Year. He's twice had the most forced fumbles, 2019, 2024. He's had 3 seasons having the most sacks, 2020, 2021, and 2023. And he's consecutive, leading. So he's done that 2 years in a row. So I think with all them stats, I'm going to go TJ Watt just because I think at his position, when you look at, and it's not like we've not had great pass rushers within his time. It's not like some positions where it's you could name, 5 guards who have played in the last 10 years. There's been some great defensive ends, including we've talked about Myles Garrett and his brother as well. And he's been one of the best ones every year. It always feels like every year he's in the top 3 defensive ends who's going to win the Defensive Player of the Year. It's always him versus Garrett, and then it's usually Parsons is coming in, Bosa's coming in, blah, blah. So I'm going to go TJ Watt in this.
Oh, I had the blinkers on for Larry Fitz, but I think you might have just talked me into it, Joe. Yeah, I love Larry Fitzgerald as well. Probably that's the run to the Super Bowl that they had where they got beat by the Steelers. Just that playoff, run that he, Kurt Warner does, of course, but Larry Fitz had 5
Green Bay game.
Yeah. 546 yards, 7 touchdowns across the 4 playoff games in the Super Bowl. Oh, this is tough. But we're gonna have a big upset in terms of the numbers. But I'm gonna go TJ Watt. I'm gonna take TJ Watt. Defensive player of the year, obviously shared that record of most sacks until Myles Garrett broke it. He's had 3 seasons at 15 or more sacks, which I think in itself is very, very impressive. And he might be on the other side of it and coming down, but still one of the true game wreckers we've got in the NFL. That was tough. I didn't envision that I would be picking against Larry Fitzgerald, but there we have it. TJ Watt through
You
to
guys
the
turned up for what?
Hey, and then on to another all-time great defensive player. I think we've got in Darrelle Revis. We're taking a trip to another island you don't want to get caught on. I guess there's a few of them knocking around at the minute. Darrelle Revis, the 2007 draft, the best number 14 overall pick of the last 25 years. Well, again, this was kind of very stacked with defensive players. Malcolm Jenkins, Thomas, Kyle Hamilton were the other kind of honorable mentions for slot number 14. Going against the Seahawks, Sean Alexander from the 2000 draft. So this is the oldest player that we've got in terms of the only one we've got from the 2000 draft selected. Sean Alexander, Casey Hampton, Antonio Cromartie, plus all his kids. Jeffrey Simmons and Jared Verse were the honorable mentions. Sean Alexander from the 2000. Then the MVP doing a lot of lifting for Sean Alexander, I think.
Yeah, I think
in there, which I think is fair. But Revis, let's talk about Revis Island a bit. We've talked about a few of these Jets players part of that. A lot of them have made it, which I didn't think was going to be a theme of this bracket. But just how dominant was Darrelle Revis.
I mean, that spell with the Jets, 3-time All-Pro first team in a row, a total of 4 All-Pro first teamers, 7, I think, all Pro Bowls. He won a Super Bowl championship not in New York, as we all know, over in New England. But Revis Island, obviously, is synonymous with just lockdown corner play. I think it might be the last true lockdown corner we've had in the NFL, truthfully. Just you would, if you went up against Darrelle Revis, didn't matter who you were getting locked down. Randy Moss had a couple of catches of note against him that kind of like always make big highlight reels. But by and large, it was a total shutdown of a side of the field. It just, to a degree, I don't think I've seen before or since in the NFL. And again, that kind of just pushes him ahead of Alexander for me. Alexander in his time was ridiculous. That 1 year he had as MVP, like you said, that does carry him and it does push him, obviously. 1,880 rushing yards alone. Nothing on the ground, essentially. 27 rushing touchdowns. Just a real beast of a player, though. But I don't think you can contend with what Revis was for such a long period. Back to back, like I say, all Pro 1s, 3 years in a row. I don't think you can contend with that as Sean Alexander. As great as he was as a running back, it was, just didn't quite shine in the same way as Darrelle Revis.
Yeah, I think that bit of Revis around, like, offenses had to completely change how they played against him and how they played against the Jets because of him. Like, you talk about taking away a side of it. There's not that. You just couldn't throw to that side. You threw to that side. You just chanced it was going the other way. Obviously, you just were not completing passes to his side of the field. It was just insane how good he was and how dominant he was. That was one of my early, Cowboys Romo heartbreak games. Was they played the Jets early in the season, one Sunday Night Football, when the Jets were really good and quite heavily favored in the game, and they went into New York. Cowboys played really well. Just didn't throw to that side of the field on kind of the drive to the Cowboys needed to ice the game and kill the time away with a lead. Romo threw it to his side. Revis picked it off, then returned it to a kick-a-winning field goal. And that was like one of my early Cowboys heartbreaking moments, staying up, watching kind of those games. But you just could not throw the ball outside of the field. It was just ridiculous how good he was. Joe, where are you on this one? Sean Alexander against Darrelle Revis.
Yeah, I'm going Revis too. I just think, you always see what is the hardest position in the NFL, and it's either basically quarterback or cornerback. and Rivas over certain years was the best one, and possibly, like you mentioned, such a lockdown corner, the ultimate, where it's still referenced today. I think that's how good of a player he is. If it's like Rivas Island, it's like even if someone locks down, it's like, oh, he's like Rivas, and I think that just says a lot. You don't really see that running back. He's like Sean Alexander, unfortunately. So it's definitely Rivas for me.
Fair enough. Rivas Island progresses to the Sweet 16, and we've got 2 first-round matchups left. So we talked about one Watt brother, and it's time to talk about the second, JJ Watt, going up against another JJ. So we've got JJ versus JJ against Justin Jefferson. JJ Watt, the number 11, the greatest number 11 pick of the last 25 years. Again, this was another stacked slot. A lot of good number 11 picks. Dwight Freeney, Ben Roethlisberger, DeMarcus Ware, Patrick Willis, but we settled on JJ Watt. And then at number 22, we've got Justin Jefferson, also Demaryius Thomas and Quinny Mitchell drafted in that slot in the last 25 years. JJ versus JJ. Which JJ do you want to start with?
Well, it's a few better than Justin Jefferson since he entered the league. His worst season since he joined the Vikings was last year with 1,048 yards. Looking at Mike Evans type streak to start his career, 4 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pros in his first 6 seasons. And, as much as we all love Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold, I wouldn't say he's had exemplary quarterback play that entire time. Some ups, some downs, but what hasn't been up and down is Justin Jefferson, who has been top 2 or 3, I think, in the league since he started. We talked about that being a ding on Larry Fitzgerald, has been always in the top 10, 12 maybe, but never in that elite consideration. Whereas, Justin Jefferson started his career second team All-Pro, first team All-Pro. The next year he only played 10 games, still got 1,000 yards. Next year after that, first team All-Pro. That is just excellence on excellence on excellence. And again, like I said, without maybe the best quarterback play in the league, we love the stories of Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold, but I'm not sure either of them are top 10 quarterbacks in the league in any given year, really.
Yeah, we've got another JJ involved in this situation. Is JJ McCarthy. Maybe he'll have an up year with Kyler chucking him the ball. That could be fun. Kyler and Justin Jefferson. That's a good, fun combination. Let's talk about JJ Watt then. We talked about TJ. JJ arguably better over his career. 3-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year, 12, 14, 15. I kind of feel like that was an opportunity for the NFL in that run to maybe give a defensive guy MVP.
He nearly got it in 2014. Yeah. I said nearly. He was second place. I think he should have got it that year as well. You had him. I would also have shouted out Tony Romo that year as well, who I thought was a really good year. But DeMarco Murray was great that year as well. So the 2 Cowboys finished 3rd and 4th in the voting that year. But JJ Watt, I think, has come as close as any defensive player has to winning MVP that year, certainly in my watching history. Unless I'm missing somebody obvious there. But also had the 3 touchdowns that year. It was a very fun at the goal line Mike Vrabel type. And I do want to just not point out, it doesn't really credit his play here, but JJ Watt, my mum's favourite defensive player of all time. She used to love watching him every week because she could easily spot him on the field. And he was just, again, 4 times All-Pro, back to back. Defensive Player of the Year. This is a really, really tough matchup. I'm going to lean JJ Watt because I just think he was such a game wrecker that those Texans teams, I'm not going to say he carried them, but I think to a large degree he was, if not carrying them, he really was really important to them, especially until they got a legitimate quarterback in there. And he was just a player I absolutely love watching. I used to love watching him with my mum on a Sunday and just being like, this guy just is close to unstoppable, it felt like. All while having a bit of a Andrew Luck chipper type personality alongside it. So, my vote goes to JJ Watt, but I absolutely love both of these players, so it's a really, really tough one.
Just the story of JJ Watt, I've got the, not on purpose, but I've got a Central Michigan Chippewas hoodie on. That's where JJ Watt started at college before going to Wisconsin. He started out at Central Michigan playing tight end. 3-time NFL defensive MVP, defensive player of the year. Started at tight end. Didn't really work out. They wanted him to play offensive tackle. Decided to leave and walk on at Wisconsin, who tried to play, and then converted to defensive end, and then the rest is history. All-time great defensive player, one of the best we've ever seen in the NFL. Just funny how that happens, but yeah, just completely dominant. And it's got some records. It's the only player I think he's got 2 20+ sack seasons, most tackles for loss in a season, 39 tackles for loss in a season. This is incredible in a 16-game seasons for the majority. Obviously, it was time when he was playing. Part of the NFL or 10's all-decade team. Yeah, JJ Watt for me. I love Justin Jefferson, of course, but JJ Watt for me. Joe, where's your vote going?
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm curious in maybe 8 years' time if we did this again, where Justin Jefferson was there, because I think it's always been like him and Chase since Chase has been in the league. Like, who is the best wide receiver? And even though we've got plenty of great wide receivers, he feels like he's the main man. But I'm going JJ Watt because I think in that period, that 3-4 year period, that might be the best like defensive performance, like output ever. What I've seen, obviously, with Pryor, there'll be plenty of players who people would argue, but who I've seen, I think Myles Garrett is getting to that position. But definitely going JJ Watt right now. And curious next year when we do the best 6th round pick if Derek Watt makes it with his brothers. So,
yeah, excellent. Yeah, we know we've Derek Watt in this one, but we'll find a way to include him in something. All right, we've got one more first round matchup left. I know. Thanks for sticking with us. It's taken us a while, but we will start rattling through. We've got Julio Jones as our best player in the number 6 position. Julio beat out Vernon Davis, Russell Okung, Jake Matthews, Leonard Williams against DeAndre Hopkins, our best player in the 27 slot, beat out Devin McCourty and Roddy White. So another Texan in D-Hop. Who's D-Hop still going, right? Was he on the Ravens last year?
Yeah, he was on the Ravens last year, yeah.
Yeah, and Julio Jones, who's not too long retired. What do we make of this matchup then? Obviously, the battle of the wide receivers.
Yeah, this is really tough. Very similar careers, to be fair. Slightly different amount of games, etc. Hopkins has him on touchdowns. Julio, never a huge touchdown scorer, which was always kind of a little ding on him. I think he only reached double digits once. DeAndre Hopkins, so 195 games, 1,295 receiving yards. Julio Jones, 166 games, 13,703 receiving yards, 66 touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins got 85 touchdowns. Very, very, very similar legacies, I would dare say. Hopkins, 5 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pro 1s, 2 All-Pro 2s. Julio Jones, 7 All-Pros, 2 All-Pro 1s, 3 All-Pro 2s. I think this is really kind of personal choice, more than maybe any other one, because they play the same position, very similar stat lines. You could say Julio Jones played with better quarterbacks. I don't think it would be too strong an argument. Matt Ryan better than Matt Schaub. Deshaun Watson better than anyone after Matt Ryan, though, to be fair. And then, Kyler better than whoever after Matt Ryan as well. My vote goes to Julio Jones. Probably my favorite player of that era. I just used to love him. I used to want to try and get him in every fantasy draft. Like I said, the touchdowns were always a slight issue, but racked up yards, racked up targets, racked up receptions, could absolutely dominate any given game. And none of this say Nuke Hopkins couldn't. Like I said, that's why to me it's just personal choice. If one of these has a really strong argument that I'm not thinking of for why it's Nuke Hopkins over Julio or Julio over Nuke, I'd love to hear it. But at this point, I'm going to go Julio just because I loved watching him play more than I did Nuke Hopkins, who I really enjoyed as a player. It's just a really tough decision. You have to pick one.
Yeah, this is just a fun... Go on,
I'm going to go Julio as well. I think, like you said, he was voted in the 2010s all-decade team. I know he came out 2011, Hopkins 2013. But I think similar to Calvin Johnson, when you hear other wide receivers talk about like the ultimate, like if you could make a wide receiver in a factory, Julio Jones would be similar, where he's like how tall he is and fast he is and his ability to catch is just like there's no one like him, and just always rave reviews regarding him. And unfortunately didn't get that Super Bowl, even though he was incredible during that game. That catch was like one of the best catches for a losing team. It just feels sad for him, and it felt like more effortless for him, where he felt like Hopkins was like fighting for everything, and he was just such a great like at the catch point, just get all them TDs. It felt like, so it's close. I just think like the style of Julio Jones just tips it for me. But yeah, it was super close.
And this is the case I wanted to make for D-Hop. So there have been, so you mentioned the how many different quarterbacks and who he's had to play with, etc. Joe, I think this is right because I've had to just run through and just add a couple. D-Hop has caught touchdown passes from 15 different quarterbacks across his NFL career. I don't know if that's a record. I feel like it probably is. Do you want to have a go at running the table?
Patrick Mahomes.
Yes, 4 touchdown passes from Patrick Mahomes.
Lamar Jackson.
Yes, 2
Matt
at the
Schaub.
start of last season, yeah.
Matt Schaub.
Matt Schaub, yeah, I want to say yes, but I think only 1 from Matt Schaub.
Oh, wow. That's surprising. Kyler Murray.
Yeah. Kyler, yeah.
Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson, yeah. 25 of D-Hop's touchdowns from Deshaun Watson.
Brock Osweiler.
Sorry,
Brock
Joe?
Osweiler.
Brock Osweiler, yeah, 5.
I have one. I wanted to get one wrong before I threw this name out there because I think it might be wrong, but it's a funny one. But I can't think of TJ Yates.
TJ Yates, 7. Yeah.
Case Keenum.
Case Keenum, yep.
I haven't got to the funny name yet, which is what I'm going to do unless Joe has someone lined up.
Tom
Savage.
Tom Savage.
Tom Savage, correct.
That's the only one I was delighted to get. Are we still 5 to go?
There's still a
Josh
fair
Johnson.
bit.
Oh, Josh Johnson, is that one? You feel like he played for every single
Not
team?
on the list, no.
Ah,
Who else played for the Cardinals? Kyler must
Who
have
was-
missed a game or 2.
yeah.
No, you've done with Cardinals, so there's only Kyler.
Titans. Ryan Tannehill?
1 from Ryan Tannehill.
He must have caught more than one on the Titans, surely.
No, Will Levis, was he around that?
Will Levis, yep, 7 from Will Levis.
So how many more do we have to go? 2 or 3? Something like that.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Fucking hell. Are they all Texans?
No.
give us a team just a moment.
Sorry. Yeah. They're all Texans left. Sorry, yeah.
Ooh. Ryan Mallett?
Correct, Ryan Mallett. Yeah.
Oh, this is a fun quiz, Paul. Let me tell you. I might be tapping out though, because I don't want to take forever trying to think back to Texans quarterbacks.
Cool.
Unless you're going
Joe,
to edit
have you
out.
Joe,
Unless
have
you're
you
going to
got
edit out.
No, I can't think of any more. There's so many Texans QBs.
Give us some additionals.
RF. You have to get that. That's the most obvious one left.
This isn't the right answer. Ryan Griffin.
Fitzpatrick.
It's
Fitzmagic. I forgot he was on the
Magic.
Great shout, Joe.
Cool. All right. The ones you're missing, I'll just because I might as well be here all day. Brian Hoyer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Of course, yeah.
And Brandon Whedon.
Didn't know he had a Texan spell. So
Yeah. 1 from Brandon Whedon on the Texans. I'm
I
pretty
knew
sure that's
Brandon Whedon was going to get on the best first round pick episode. I didn't know how he would be, but I knew he'd be there.
There you go. But it's Julio. I was going to pick D-Hop. It doesn't matter. But yeah, Julio Jones. Incredible. Again, tough because they're so good. So we're into our second round, and we will obviously be able to move through them a little bit quicker because we've done most of the selling on there. But we'll just head up back to the start then. We've got a great last 16. So, Joe, you've loaded it up perfectly. So our first round up, or our first match of the round of 16. No, that's not the first one. I clicked the wrong one. We've got our best number one player, Myles Garrett of the Cleveland Browns, and Troy Polamalu of the Pittsburgh Steelers. A big AFC North clash, and Byron just pulled his face there. 2 absolute defensive titans going against each other. How do you even begin to separate these two?
Despite the fact I didn't put Myles Garrett into this round, I voted Drew Brees for quarterback strength. I'm going to go Myles Garrett here because what he's done so far beats out what Troy Polamalu had done to this point of his career in an individual basis. Really, really tough matchup though. So I'm going to go Garrett, but I'm not going to be upset if you just leave Troy Polamalu because how could you be?
Yeah, although I didn't put him through this round, I'm going to take Troy Polamalu and leave Joe a decision. So much fun. Not that Myles Garrett isn't. He's obviously, beast as well, and just insane. And but when we get another 5 years down the line, when Myles Garrett, if it's longer, hangs it up, we're just gonna look back. But just again, just one of the ones of where at that position of safety, just kind of playing outside of what you think a safety could be, Polamalu, I think. And that's what kind of is going to tip me to pick Polamalu in this matchup against Myles Garrett. Joe?
Oh, cheers, guys.
That was good. I'm glad I did that then.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to go Garrett. I think when you look at the All-Pros, it's a very similar, and he's still got a few years to go. And he's playing on such a bad team. I know that Browns defense normally has a decent defense, but Polamalu, he had a lot of all-worldly defenders to play with. I'm not quite sure if Garrett always has that, and he just produces year after year. And I think he's still going to, have some good years. And it's just unfortunately he's with the Browns. It would have been nice if he left them last year and didn't stay for the money. And he could have chased the ring a little bit and got the glory that way. But getting that sack record, getting 2 defensive players of the year, I'm going to go for Myles.
I've just noticed the way the bracket's split out now. The two sides were kind of this side of the bracket is just stacked with defensive players, and the other side is more geared with offensive players, which is quite. It wasn't designed that way. It's just the way it's fallen. So I'm very interested. But Myles Garrett through to our Elite 8, and he certainly is elite. Now, who's he going to meet? So another potential elite defender, Ed Reed, the 24th pick. Against Christian McCaffrey, the best number 8 overall pick. Again, 2 very, very different players, of course, different sides of the ball, offense, defense, running back, safety. Yeah, Ed Reed against CMC.
You come to me?
Yeah, Joe's busy now, so.
Yeah, I'm going to go Ed Reed. Absolutely love CMC, obviously. Make sure he got nominated here because someone might have missed him off the initial list. But
my bad.
Yeah, Ed Reed to me, best safety of his generation, best safety of all time in my lifetime watching the NFL. CMC, I spoke so highly of him in the last round. Incredible offensive weapon for such a long time. But Ed Reed is just a Hall of Famer. So will CMC. So I don't want to put that as an actual breaking point. But
do you think he will be?
McCaffrey, yeah.
CMC? Yeah, I think so.
I'm not quite sure. He needs a few more years.
We'll see, certainly. If he had less injuries, I think it's a no-brainer, but I think he will be. And one last thing, Joe was talking about all Ed Reed's interceptions earlier. I'm sure we've all seen it many times, but if you've never seen the Ed Reed Peyton Manning interception where Peyton Manning talks it through of basically Ed Reed baited him into thinking he was running to the middle of the field, and without even looking back at Peyton Manning, just sprints back into the seam because he knows that's what Peyton Manning's going to do, is absolutely incredible. To outwit somebody like Peyton Manning on the NFL field is legendary. And there'll be stories about CMC similar as well, but it's Ed Reed for me.
Cool. Joe?
Yeah, I'm Ed Reed as well. I think just in terms of, like I said, best player in his position, I don't know, since 2000, where would you put McCaffrey? I don't know. It'd be tricky to even put him in the top 5, top 10. You got to think of, there's quite a lot of great running backs in that time, but I think there's only been, when you think of safety, everyone just says Ed Reed's the best safety. Yeah.
I think Ed Reed, Polamalu, Earl Thomas probably is.
Lynch, possibly, but there might be 90s.
Yeah. But okay, cool. Ed Reed then. Further discussion needed then. Ed Reed, Myles Garrett, Elite 8 matchup. Oh, these are getting tough. Right, we'll move on to our next Sweet 16 matchup. And we've got Trent Williams, our best 4th overall pick of the last 25 years, against Aaron Donald. 2 players that are going to go down as arguably the best ever to play in their positions. How are we going to split these 2 of the all-time greats?
Really, really, really fun one. To me, again, though, I'm not sure this is that tough, truthfully. I think it's Aaron Donald by no means a walkover, but he's a Pro Bowler every single year. And Trent Williams had years where he wasn't a Pro Bowler. And, we're really tough levels here. By and large, we do have Joe Flacco in here somehow, but by and large, these are really, really elite players going up against other ones. And I think there's a really strong argument to make. Aaron Donald was the best, certainly the best defensive player since he got drafted through to when he retired. Trent Williams has been great. Like I said, I think he might be the best left tackle of his generation, but I think Aaron Donald was just levels and just a level above Trent Williams. Trent Williams probably could have been done with being drafted to not the Washington football team to benefit his case as well a little. If he'd been a San Francisco 49 under Kyle Shanahan his entire career, maybe this looks a little different, but he wasn't. So to me, it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm Donald as well. I think 3 defensive player of the years. Also, can't forget as well, he led the league in sacks one year from that interior defensive line position, which again in this age of football is just ridiculous, isn't it? To be able to do that as well. And just a quick shout out again, you listen to the draft element of this. I realized we had 3 universities. The most ridiculous noise of moving the camera we've ever had on the show there. Shout out University of Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Panthers football team, Aaron Donald, Darrell Revis, Larry Fitzgerald all made this greatest draft pick slots of the last 2 phases. With plenty of Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, those you expect to see. University of Pittsburgh having 3 in the 32. It's quite impressive, worth shouting out. But yeah, Aaron Donald for me. So sorry, Joe, Trent Williams. We just got rid of both your 49ers players in this.
Well, that's fine. I think last week when it was the Cowboys 49ers in the final of the jerseys, there may have been some Homer kind of accusations. But yeah, we put it to bed that there's none of that. But yeah, I agree. Donald is being the best defensive tackle and possibly defensive player even this century. So.
Yeah, excellent. Then we're moving on. We've got Micah Parsons, our 12 pick, best 12 pick last 25 years against LaDainian Tomlinson, our best 5th overall pick in the last 25 years. LT against Parsons. Tough to split this one. I think I'll go first with this one. I'm going to lean LT. I think that MVP. And I know Parsons was never really ever going to have an opportunity of winning MVP in the way that award works. But I think, just as much as you had so many great seasons, LT, but just that one monster season was arguably one of the all-time great running back seasons in 2006. And, crowning it off with winning MVP, I think tips a very tight matchup in the favor of LT. And what do you guys think?
I thought we'd have more fun picking these players because it's actually torture. It was more fun picking who got to make it to the finals because this is brutal. I'm going to lean LT as well, and it kills me to do it because I think Parsons is so good. But all these players are really good, and Joe Flacco's here as well. So it's really tough. But yeah, LT gets us some offensive representation on the left-hand side of the board for me.
Yeah, that is true. Also, very, very heavy defense as well. But again, I think if we revisited this maybe kind of 5 years down the line or whatever again, you might be a different argument here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's 2 unbelievable plays. But yeah, LT for me. Also, just LT in that jersey as well is just
the visor.
The visor.
The look is so sick.
The powder bullet. Phenomenal. I've got one of those LT jerseys knocking about. I picked it up in I can't remember what it was, like a vintage warehouse thing. It was a $5 from that time, LaDainian Tomlinson. It's a shame it's too small for me. I need to gift it to somebody, maybe he's a Chargers fan, because it's beautiful.
Frame on my wall, to be fair, before I go gift
it.
I'm not as kind as you.
Yeah, it is phenomenal how nice that jersey is. But yeah, I'll take. Was it a clean sweep, Joe? Anyway.
Yeah. I think, like you said, maybe give 5-10 years, it could be a discussion. But just Thomas as a whole career trumps Parsons.
Yeah, cool. So we've got Aaron Donald against LT in the next round again. In itself, a brutal decision to make. Our next Sweet 16 matchup, it's that man. There goes that man again. It's Joe Flacco as our greatest number 18 overall pick in the last 25 years against Megatron Calvin Johnson. And Byron, why don't you make the case for Joe Flacco in this matchup?
Sure. A man who retired too early, a man who refuses to retire. He came out this week and said teams who didn't consider signing him this year were dumb. And I say, hell yeah, Joe Flacco. You tell them that they're dumb. you know, a Pro Bowl quarterback. How many Pro Bowl quarterbacks don't get signed by a team to at least contend to be a starter? Not many. So a bit of disrespect to Joe Flacco there, the Pro Bowl quarterback in 2025. However, despite the fact Calvin Johnson retired young and Joe Flacco just keeps driving on, it's like a 51-49, 52. I'm gonna lean Johnson. I just think he had a less longevity but a higher peak. You know, often the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver in the league, which, you know, Joe Flacco, you know, he was often the number 1 or 2 wide quarterback in the AFC North, which is great. And I think it's a hell of an accomplishment to get as far as he did, let's be fair. He's taken advantage of some soft matchups. And we can't take away the Super Bowl run from him, but we are going to take him. I'm going to take him out here. You guys might go 2-1 Flacco here, but Calvin Johnson gets my vote.
I'll make the case. I'll make the case for Flacco, and here we go. Just this, because he does have some NFL records that are definitely great records to have. He is tied with Tom Brady for most road playoff wins for a quarterback in NFL history, and 7 along with Brady. That is 5 more games, playoff games, than Megatron ever played in.
And that's his fault.
Partially, I guess. Only got to the playoffs twice, the Lions. He did have 200 yards receiving in one of those games, though, that they lost in 2011. Which is probably a playoff record for most receiving yards in a game, I imagine. It won't be far off.
Gabe Davis had a killer one, didn't he? 4 touchdowns and a lot of yards. I don't know how many he actually ended up with in a defeat. Also, 13 seconds.
Yeah. But yes, it's Calvin Johnson for me as well. As much as that playoff run, the Ravens run to the Super Bowl is legendary for just the teams they had to beat on the road. But yeah, Johnson for me. Joe, are you just going to put a solitary vote in for Flacco just so we got one in this round? Or?
No, I just can't believe we've wasted this much time talking about Flacco. It's just it's Calvin Johnson.
Is Calvin Johnson. All right. Next up, a battle that we see regularly in the NFL regular season and postseason. And when we get to the playoffs, we know how this one usually goes. But it's Patrick Mahomes as our greatest number 10 pick of the last 25 years against Josh Allen, our greatest number 7 pick. Is this one going to follow normally does in the playoffs when these two get together?
Yeah, it's knockout football. It's knockout bracketology. It's Patrick Mahomes.
Joe, can you make a case for Josh Allen?
No, because he can't be Patrick Mahomes when it matters. So it doesn't matter here. So Patrick Mahomes.
Oh dear, right, okay, just easy as that. I feel that was very harsh on Josh Allen.
It's very harsh that he got 6 minutes less than Joe Flacco did.
Yeah.
That might be the insult. But only one of them is a Pro Bowler currently, so I think
that can't be right.
That
can't be right.
Well, I think Josh Allen maybe pulled out of the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
So Joe Flacco was in the Pro Bowl.
He still gets the acknowledgement of being a Pro Bowler. Okay, cool. So we've got Patrick Mahomes 3. All right, next up then we've got 2 defensive strong this. TJ Watt against Darrell Revis. And again, this is real tough. TJ Watt is our big upset over Larry Fitz in the first round. Darrell Revis beat out Sean Alexander. Our number 30 pick against the number 14 pick. I think as well, some of the stuff on Revis as well, because of what his role and what he did, and that teams would just not even bother throwing to his side of the field at times. That gets a bit lost, like in the numbers and the stats, because maybe he doesn't have them as much because teams just try to keep him out of the game. Whereas obviously that's not the case with TJ Watt. It's just not really possible. So yeah, how do you split Watt and Revis fairly?
I don't know if there is a fair way to do it. This is another one where a lot of these, like, I think there's a relatively strong one and a weaker one in them. This one, I don't know how you really pick over the personal choice. I'm going to go Revis just because I found that Revis Island so infatuating and so, like, how does one man take away, like, an entire field, half of a field, and condense an offense into you must throw the other way? And then he also won a Super Bowl with a different team. He was great throughout the years on different teams. He was Pro Bowler on Tampa, on New England, and on the Jets. So I'm going to lean Darrelle Revis, but again, you can't make an argument against TJ Watt. You just kind of have to make an argument for Darrelle Revis in this case. That this is why he's my pick. But if you both go TJ Watt, I'm not going to be like, what are you doing? Because TJ Watt's elite and a game wrecker. So it's the level of players we have at this point.
It's tough.
Revis, just to be clear.
Well, it's tricky. I think I was leaning Revis, but then I was just looking at TJ Watt's had 9 years in the NFL. 5 of them he's been in the top 4 of Defensive Player of the Year, so over half, and that's 5 out of the last 7 as well. He's been in the top 4 of Defensive Player of the Year. Obviously, he's got it once. He's been second twice, 1 third, 1 fourth, which is ridiculous. He's got 1 less All-Pro than Revis, first team. So you know what? I'm going to go TJ Watt, so Paul has to decide. That's what I'm going
to go. That's fair. I'm from our just regular season episodes how big a fan of TJ Watt I am. Even if I by his standard probably didn't have his best season last year, but I think this is very, very tough because I think these are both players on the defense side of the ball you have to game plan for. You have to change what you do a little bit from an offensive perspective. Like you have to, as much as that we talk about taking the field away from Darrelle Revis, you have to massively account for TJ Watt as well. And maybe some of the when we talk about the Garrett Watt, he doesn't maybe face as many double teams and things like that as Garrett does, but I still think he does has to deal with and overcome a lot. I'm going to go Darrelle Revis, though, because I think to have that impact from that position of cornerback, so there's a big impact on the game and other teams in the opposition from cornerback rather than pass rusher, I think is more impressive. So I'm going to take Darrelle Revis just on that. But yeah, 2, again, they're going to go in, be talked about as kind of the absolute, some of the best of all time in their positions for sure. But yeah, Darrelle Revis, I think it's harder to make that impact from corner than what it is to do as an edge rusher. So Darrelle Revis for me. Cool. Next up, our last Sweet 16 game. We've talked about TJ. Let's talk about JJ again. It's JJ. We've got another JJ versus JJ in consecutive rounds, which is incredible. We've got JJ Watt against Julio Jones. Again, these two probably careers who ran kind of alongside each other as well. Watt and Julio Jones in the same time of the league. So yeah, which JJ is going to progress? Didn't realize we were stacked with JJs at the bottom of this corner of the bracket.
Yeah, really, really, really tough, obviously. And another really tough JJ versus wide receiver matchup as well. It's tough to kind of calibrate those two. I'm going to lean JJ Watt again, just because as much as I love Julio Jones, I don't know if I could argue that Julio Jones has been more impressive than Justin Jefferson has, year by year. And in terms of even peaks, I think Justin Jefferson has maybe hit the same kind of peaks as Julio Jones did. Maybe not quite there, but around there, certainly. I think they've both been in the top 2 or 3 receivers in the league for the same amount of years, roughly. And if I'm picking JJ Watt over Justin Jefferson, therefore, despite the fact that Julio Jones is one of my all-time favorites, I think I have to go JJ Watt over Julio Jones as well. I just think his level of impact on the field in terms of dragging his team to higher levels, I think was probably more than Julio Jones managed. And again, we're really picking nits here because these are all elite players now that Joe Flacco's gone. So I'm going to lean JJ Watt, but I don't love doing it.
And does JJ Watt get pinged for being part owner of Burnley and them being shy? Does that hurt his case at all?
No, it doesn't help it, though. I'm very clear on that. I don't like him as a football owner. But yeah, it doesn't hurt his case, sadly.
Okay, just wanted to check. All right, Joe, split the JJs then. Which JJ are you taking?
Yeah, I'm going to go Watt as well. I think just for that 3-4 year period, he was the top of the top, the best defensive player in the league.
You could argue he was the best player in the league at that point, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Julio Jones had his moments, especially when he got to the Super Bowl one, but would you have ever said he was the best wide receiver per year? And I can probably think of other wide receivers who had better years than him, but it's hard to argue defensive ends who had a better year than JJ Watt in any of them years. So I'm going to go JJ Watt as well.
Yeah, no doubt Julio Jones, tremendous player, but yeah, edged out by a 3-time defensive player of the year. It's a tough matchup. So JJ Watt in. So our Elite 8 is set. We've got 5 defensive players, and the 5 defensive players you could argue will go down as that right? 1, 2, 1. I can't count. 1, 2. Yeah, 3. 5 of the greatest defensive players of all time, and we've got 3. Very, very impressive offensive players as well. So yeah, split to the defense. We love defensive football here at Good Teams and Great Teams, but it's not always about points. It should be right. Elite 8 then, our first elite matchup. Gentlemen, are you ready? I know we've been at this for 2 hours, but we're almost there. We've only got 7 matchups to decide.
Let's go. We don't have 10 minutes of Joe Flacco to talk about.
We don't. And we've got another AFC North battle. Myles Garrett's been in these AFC North battles through his career and now in this bracket back to back. Going, knocking out Troy Polamalu in our Elite 8, in our Sweet 16, taking on Ed Reed in our Elite 8. Again, how can we possibly split these two?
Great question.
Thank you.
Not going to be long-winded. We are long on time here. I'm just going to give my vote Ed Reed.
Ed Reed. Is this part of the fact that we're, again, just because Myles Garrett just obviously is not done yet and there's obviously more to come, he's just not got kind of that back end that on the back end that Ed Reed has?
Yeah, kind of. And I think, to me, I think there's a real good chance that in the NFL all-time team, or certainly in my time watching it, Ed Reed is the safety, whereas Myles Garrett, there's other pass rushers that you contend with. We mentioned TJ Watt, who's made it through here. JJ Watt's made it through here. Micah Parsons, I think, is a comparison. And these are all players who played in the same time as JJ Watt. If you go back further in time, Lawrence Taylor's example, who, and again, it's super picking nits, but I'm just taking the player who I think to me is the best I've ever seen at his position. Also a punt returner as well, which shouldn't go unmentioned for Ed Reed. He kind of was everywhere on the field when needed for the Ravens, and a Super Bowl winner. Again, picking real small margins to pick one here because I think Myles Garrett is a Hall of Famer as well. But to me, it's just got Ed Reed on best I've ever seen. So,
yeah, cool. Joe?
Yeah, no anticlimax or anything. I'm going Ed Reed as well. Just basically what Byron said, to be honest. And it might change Garrett a few more years if he racks up a few more defensive player of the years. I know he's got one more than Ed Reed, but it's harder at the safety position to get it. But yeah, I'm going to go Ed Reed just because he is the best at his position, where Garrett, you could possibly argue elsewhere.
Cool. Ed Reed, 1/4 of our final 4. Aaron Donald then in the Elite 8 matchup. Aaron Donald, LaDainian Tomlinson, 2006 MVP against 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Aaron Donald. Joe, do you want to start this one? I'm conscious you've not had the chance to go first a lot.
This is so tough, but I'm going to go Aaron Donald. I just think at his position he was the best. And I think it's understated how many times he was double-teamed and triple-teamed, and he still was dominant. He obviously had that, and he also had that Super Bowl run where we talked about it when we did the greatest Super Bowl teams, where him and Cooper Kupp were the defining players of that team. 2 biggest games against the 49ers in the NFC Championship and in the Super Bowl, they needed a play to win the game, and he did it both times, sacked Jimmy Garoppolo and then also Burrows as well, where the game was on the line. Big play stepped up, and he did it. Not saying anything against Tomlinson, but Donald did it when it mattered in that Super Bowl, and he just possibly the best defensive tackle we may have ever seen, just with his size and just like I said, just when he had 3 players and he still managed to just bully his way through. So I'm going to go Donald.
Excellent. Byron.
Aaron Donald wrote in pen for the final. Well, final 4.
Final 4. Oh yeah, Aaron Donald. Yeah, I think so. And again, tough to pick against LT. But yeah, it's going up against such a tough matchup in Aaron Donald. So we've got Aaron Donald, Ed Reed on one side of the bracket for our final 4. Cool. Let's fill out the other side then. So we've got 2 of our 3 offensive players going against each other in this one. So we've got Megatron, Calvin Johnson, up against Patrick Mahomes, our number 2 overall, against our number 10 overall. Yeah, again, kind of, they've probably now played similar number of years in the league. Probably, what did Johnson get to? 9. Is that where Mahomes is? 9, 10? Patrick Mahomes at this point?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, he's played 9 seasons, yeah, Mahomes.
9
one of them, he only played 1 game, though, because it was his rookie year that he didn't play.
Just played
135 versus 126, so...
Yeah, so pretty similar then, sort of career lengths. Yeah, I think this is really, really tough because, again, these are players who just were completely just smashed the mold of what their positions are. I think, when you look at Calvin Johnson, how tall he was. I think he's 6'5", 240 he played at, which is insane for then the speeds he was going at for somebody that big. And Mahomes, just that rocket arm, that ability to rush, the clutch gene, all that. Very, very tough to split them. I'll go Mahomes, but it's tough because Johnson was just a freak specimen, hence Megatron. But yeah, he's up there in terms of, not necessarily have the numbers because of the shorter career, just kind of think it's more injuries and disillusion with just playing for the Lions because they just were going nowhere, which is a shame. Whereas if he got to kind of 12 plus years, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, nobody's getting close to the Jerry Rice numbers, but certainly trajectory going that way. But Mahomes for me. Joe, I'll let you go next. I'll let you.
Thanks, Paul. I'm going to go Mahomes as well. I think when all said and done, he's going to be in that conversation for the greatest ever quarterback. There's arguments now in terms of he's obviously being compared against Brady quite a lot. I think as in terms of ability, in terms of not mental, physical. I think Mahomes probably is. It could be argued the best quarterback around. I think maybe Brady might have it in the men's side, but it's not like Mahomes is that far. And just with how many Super Bowls he has, and he has that Brady where it's just you just know he's going to come back and he's just going to win. And he has that teams are scared of him, and I think he just has that presence where it's it's scary for teams. So I'm going to go Patrick Mahomes as well.
Yeah, there's that sort of inevitability feeling, isn't there, with Mahomes? Interested to see how much of a ding that's taken from obviously what happened in 2025, or if it has at all. When kind of where the Chiefs, if they bounce back in 2026, they'll bounce back at some point. It's just, is it going to be 2026 or not? Right, Patrick Mahomes out, last offensive player standing, because obviously LT went out and Calvin Johnson just gone. So we're down to our final Elite 8 matchup. It is Darrelle Revis taking out one of the Watt brothers. No, yeah, he took out TJ Watt. Can he take out JJ Watt in the next round in the Elite 8? Revis against JJ Watt.
I lean JJ Watt. Really, really tough. Obviously, Darrelle Revis, we've spoke everything about all his accolades, etc., etc. I think Pro Football Reference have a really good monitor. They use Hall of Fame monitor. In that category, Darrelle Revis is 8th all-time in DBs. So that includes cornerbacks and safeties, obviously. JJ Watt in defensive ends is 3rd all-time. I'm not going to say the numbers because they differ based on position. They weight it based on position. But I think that's just really telling that JJ Watt, there's no one else really from this era in there. Julius Peppers is 7th or 8th. Myles Garrett is 10th, 11th. So get in there with a shorter career, obviously. But I think JJ Watt just kind of stands with Aaron Donald as the barometers of defensive line play in that era. So I'm going to put JJ Watt ahead of Darrelle Revis. It's really tough though, but that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I'm going to go flip side. I'm going to take Darrelle Revis again because I think it's just tough because again the secondary plays, particularly the court. It's hard to get kind of that love because you don't have the sack numbers and things like that, and unless you the interceptions become these interception side of things can be quite streaky. We've seen that with cornerbacks and things like that in the past, haven't we? Whereas, again, just this guy takes half your game plan away. He takes your number one option. Well, your number one passing option goes with this guy, and you've got to find different ways to play against him and different ways to beat his team. So because of that impact, I'm going to go Darrell Revis, which leaves Joe a decision to make between our 14th best overall pick, Darrell Revis, and our best 11th overall pick, JJ Watt.
Yeah, I feel like the similar players where they had like a 3 or 4 year period where they were just the best player on defense and possibly the league, which you don't always get. But I'm going to go with JJ Watt, just with the 3 defensive players of the year. You also got Walter Payton, NFL Man of the Year. So I'm not saying Revis is not a good guy, but Watt got that as well. And I just think Watt was just so dominant, and Revis took one Watt out, but couldn't do the second one. So JJ Watt into the Final Four.
Avenging his brother. So we've got the Final Four of Ed Reed, Aaron Donald, Patrick Mahomes, and JJ Watt. I think no matter how we break this down, we've got a good Final Four. We've got, some of the,
I was going to say what's interesting, no top 1 to 9 pick has not made it. They're all 10 and below.
Great point.
Excellent. Well, our first Final Four matchup is the 24th pick, Ed Reed, against the 13th, our best 13th over Aaron Donald. I don't think I can cheat. I'm going to need convincing.
So I'll speak up then, I guess. Never want shy to open my mouth. And I've spoke very highly of Ed Reed throughout this process. My favorite DB ever, certainly safety, probably DB ever. But again, just looking at the PFR Hall of Fame monitoring they have. So Ed Reed ranks, where's DB's gone? I've lost my tab here. 4th all time. So you got Rod Woodson, Deion Sanders, Ronnie Lott, Ed Reed. Hell of a grouping, geez Louise. And again, the numbers don't compare across each position, so don't use that. But you got Woodson at 177, 171, 165, then Ed Reed at 148. 5th place is 127. So you've kind of got 2 in an elite company. Ronnie Lott 165, then Ed Reed 148, a little behind. At D tackle, you've got Aaron Donald number 1. 181. Then Bob Lilly is second at 159. You've got Randy White 143, Alan Page 142, etc. And down you go. To be that far clear of your contemporaries across the entire NFL in NFL history, I trust PFR. I've done more digging into the careers of Randy White, Bob Lilly, Alan Page, Joe Green than I have. And I watched Aaron Donald every week, and every week it was like, man, this guy is not stoppable. This guy is unbelievable. I really like that Joe mentioned, because I was going to the Super Bowl run, and especially that Super Bowl game where, and even more so, and again, Joe already mentioned it, but that sack of Joe Burrow, it was really just if you want to go out at the top, this is how you do it. Especially the defensive player, to have the game-sealing play. You get your ring on the camera, that moment. For that, I'm going Aaron Donald, and it kind of pains me because I absolutely adore Ed Reed as a player, but I'm going Aaron Donald because I just think he was so far above his contemporaries that, we talked about, there was discussions of, is it Troy Polamalu, is it Ed Reed as the best safety in the NFL at that time? There's never been a conversation of who's the best DT tackle in the league when Aaron Donald was in the league. So for me, it's Aaron Donald here.
Okay. It's a very compelling case.
Thank you.
Joe.
I don't really want to go next because I'm going to make the decision. I'm going to go Aaron Donald as well. In terms of when you look at NFL first team All-Pro, he's the joint leader with some of the greats in terms of how many for defensive play. He's got 8, and he retired when he was 32, 33. I think if he could carried on, he would have broke that record in terms of. So he's joint with Reggie White, Lawrence Taylor, Bruce Smith, and a few of us back in the 50s. So just how great he was as a player. And then when you look at this stretch in terms of NFL top, when they do the top 100 players, so from 2018, he was number 7, then number 1, then number 3, then number 2, then number 2, and then number 11 when he left. So he was even
for a DT.
For a DT, they always ranked him so high. That stretch of 4 years of number 1, number 3, number 2, number 2, because he usually goes to a quarterback, and I think that just shows how amazing he was. Obviously, he's got the defensive player of the years as well. And it's like you said, it's picking just small little things. But I just think just the Aaron Donald, just like I said, just how many times there was 3 players on him and he still did what he had to do. A 6'1" as a defensive tackle. He was just when you look, he was just the ultimate, him and like Garrett was one of the people that, like when they're the shirts off, you're like, okay, I can see why the NFL players and they dominate. Just cannot like make better football defensive players. So I'm gonna go Aaron Donald.
They're just showing Aaron Donald last week curling 125-pound dumbbells.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is not a human being. Get back in the league.
There you go. And he was too small to play D tackle, don't forget.
Got drafted after Eric Ebron.
Yeah. Swing and a miss. Right, that's one Final Four matchup. Yeah, I'd have probably added Len Donald, I think. Tough. I'd love Ed Reed, but Len Donald, so it would have been unanimous, which is tough for Ed Reed because he deserved better. But our other Final Four matchup, 10 against 11, Mahomes against JJ Watt. This is brutal. Byron, does your early part of kind of impact at quarterback carry Mahomes a bit more here?
Yes, it does.
Against JJ Watt?
Yeah, it does. Again, we talked about Josh Allen, Drew Brees lifting franchises, and I don't think Kansas City were quite in the same mire as the Bills and the Saints. That's why I didn't reference him in that same way. But the Chiefs have won one Super Bowl in their lifetime prior to Patrick Mahomes coming in, and they've won 3 since. And he is a magician. He lifts all boats around him. Harking back to this Hall of Fame monitor that PFR have that I love. Patrick Mahomes isn't in the top few. He's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, sorry. But he's played 126 games. The nearest anyone is to him above him is John Montana has 192, Steve Young has 169. So you're talking, 4 seasons more of play for Patrick Mahomes to keep rising in there. I don't think there's anybody, you can look at Josh Allen, but he's not had the accolades in terms of winning Super Bowls to go alongside it. I don't know if there's a player of this century who's kind of revitalized the game or revitalized the team in the same way Patrick Mahomes has. You could say 3 Super Bowls in his first how many years, could have had a three-peat. JJ Watt is really special, and that's why he's in the Final Four, but I'm going Patrick Mahomes. Again, I just think when you do it as a quarterback, it just matters more. I don't know what JJ Watt could have done more to do it, like I said about Myles Garrett, other than play a different position. So I'm going Patrick Mahomes. I think it's the hardest position to be good at, and it's the hardest position to be elite at. JJ Watt, a very special player, but Patrick Mahomes for me.
Joe?
I'm going to do this again, Anna. I'm going for Mahomes as well. It's the first two. I agree. I feel like Patrick Mahomes sometimes, I think Tom Brady and like Bill Belichick and like Andy Reid, them kind of because they're that good and they're consistently that good, they get overlooked on a lot of the awards or like the first team All Pros. And obviously there's a lot of great quarterbacks. Obviously there's more good quarterbacks and probably defensive ends at any one point in terms of like challenging for awards. And I think Mahomes he's the class standard of when you think about how good the quarterbacks have been the last 5 to 10 years. He is up there with, arguably him and the end of Brady's career where the best quarterback of just winning. And I think sometimes that gets overlooked where, we talk about Lamar and we talk about he deserves his MVPs and he has the highest passer rate and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes winning is all that matters. Yeah. And Mahomes is just the best at it no matter what. He has dipped the last few years. He's not as invincible as he once was, but they still make the Super Bowl. And I don't think it's not like teams have carried him. I think he's played well, and obviously the 2 Super Bowls has not been great in terms of his offensive line and whatnot. But he's just when all is said and done, when he retires, he's going to be up there. It's going to probably be him or Brady, and you can chuck in Montana and a few others like the greatest quarterback ever. I don't think there's any doubt in that. So I'm going Mahomes too.
Cool, excellent. Well, that says it. We have our championship matchup. JJ Watt falls in the Final Four. We have, I guess, then arguably the greatest defensive player of the last 25 years against the greatest quarterback of the last 10 in our final. This is tough. Before we do it, let's just get the promos in because we'll end up quite abruptly after this. Make sure you're following Good Teams and Great Teams cover on our all our platforms are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. If you want the video version, I appreciate all the great graphics we put together. for this episode, so make sure you do. Also follow us at GTW_GTC on X, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, TikTok as well. We've got a lot coming up. We've got some great interviews. We've got more NFL Academy interviews. We've got some Brit Ball interviews. We've got our fans on the clock draft before our draft content really kicks in. But before we get into all of that, we've got to crown our greatest draft pick slot of the last 25 years. It's Aaron Donald against Patrick Mahomes. Who wants to speak first on this one? What a finale we've got. The best 13 against the best 10.
I'll go first just because I've got my answer. And it's so hard. I'm going to lean Aaron Donald. I just think me as an NFL fan, I wonder if it's like a British thing. We feel very like we lean against defensively, that we enjoy defensive football. But I just think Aaron Donald in that position. And I just love if number 13 wins it. Unlucky 13 is actually the best draft pick what's been this century. So there's not much between them. I just think because Aaron Donald is clearly the best defensive tackle this century. I think Mahomes is, but there's probably some arguments in terms of like I mentioned, like the other kind, not just winning the other abilities. But it's so close. But I'm going to lean Aaron Donald.
I've also got my answer, we are going to let Byron then decide the winner, because I'm going to go Patrick Mahomes. And as we've talked this through, and again, basically it's because similar to Brady as well, like really, when you boil it down, obviously Travis Kelce is going to go down, obviously, is again probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest in his position. The cycle of people that Mahomes has been having to throw the ball to, like Tyreek was good. Obviously, Tyreek had a couple of, really, really good years. It's just mashing people together. It's just finding people, usually people off the street that end up making the biggest plays for the Chiefs, but that's because he's leading that offense and he's being able to get these guys in. Running game isn't always great. The O-line varies from being good to it being a complete mess. And yet, in spite of all of that, he still finds ways to win, still never beat, still can get to Super Bowl, still win championships. Despite of all that, he's the true definition of a franchise quarterback. We talk about franchise quarterbacks mask other deficiencies that you've got as a team, and that's why you have them, and that's why you pay them the money that you pay them. So for all the comebacks, all the late game wins, all the improbable ones, and everything else in between, I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes. I feel a little bit dirty saying that, but I'm going to take Mahomes. And Byron, you have the casting vote to pick our winner of this March Madness bracket.
Yeah, so as mentioned on the Hall of Fame monitoring, Aaron Donald, by far the best at his position across the NFL history. We mentioned Warren Sapp earlier. He's like 60 points behind on there. And I mean, if you look at like his contemporaries, you've got like Ndamukong Suh, Fletcher Cox, way, way, way behind. But Patrick Mahomes plays the most important position of the sport. You've just kind of gone through it, all the reasons why there. It's really hard to not say Aaron Donald because he's so elite and so dominant. But Patrick Mahomes is a winner, Super Bowl winner. And the reason they've won 3 Super Bowls is because Patrick Mahomes. It's one of them where I think Patrick Mahomes could have had that impact. He could have been drafted basically anywhere, and I think he'd have had similar kind of level of success. And yeah, it's no discredit to Aaron Donald, but again, like I've said for a few of these players, JJ Watt against Patrick Mahomes, Myles Garrett against Drew Brees, for me, the only thing Aaron Donald could have done is play a more important position. So for me, when you get the quarterback right, it's franchise altering. Getting DT right isn't quite the same impact. It just isn't. So if you have one of the best quarterbacks all time, or you go the best D tackle of all time, give me one of the best quarterbacks of all time in Patrick Mahomes.
Can I ask Byron, was there any decision on that Mahomes looks like he's got a dad bod with his t-shirt on versus Aaron Donald?
This is best bod. You come back 2027 for Football Players Best Bods edition. I'd be stunned if Patrick Mahomes makes a bracket, unless Joe Flacco somehow ends up in there, in which case I'm taking Mahomes over him. But I mean, that's almost a credit to him. He does it with a dad bod. Aaron Donald couldn't do what he does with a dad bod.
There we have it. I thought for sure you were going to go Aaron Donald.
Absolutely love Donald.
Sure.
Like,
yeah,
couldn't say enough high things about him, but ultimately, like I say, best DT doesn't beat one of the best quarterbacks. So,
yeah, Joe, that's on me. That's on me. I should have just took Donald. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes is our winner. Patrick Mahomes is the greatest 10, number 10 draft pick of the 21st century. Beats out 31. I think 31 greats, but a lot of greats and some filler to win our final March Madness bracket of the season. It's a shock. I didn't see that one coming.
There's certainly plenty of positions where the draft, people are getting drafted this year, be like, get me number 15. I might be the greatest number 15 draft pick this century. So go look out for that.
Whoever goes number 23, I'm predicting is going to be better than Evan Ingram.
Yeah.
Who made the shortlist.
Who made the shortlist. Well, that was a very fun exercise. Hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate it was a lot. I didn't think it was going to take 2.5 hours. So appreciate you sticking with us if you have listening to that. Obviously, the first round takes a lot. Maybe we should limit these brackets to 16 because, just for time purposes moving forward. But thanks for joining us. That's the end of our March Madness special run, coinciding with the NCAA men's basketball tournament. It was fun. We could probably do that next year and mix up a bit. It's been good fun. But yeah, catch the next episodes, follow the socials as we've discussed already. And congratulations to Patrick Mahomes for winning our final March Madness bracket of the season.